Right, I'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is review and approval of the minutes from the previous meeting.
Yeah, I have no corrections. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of June 7th as presented.
Did you have anything, Jack?
Nope. I'll second that motion.
Okay, with motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye. And I'll make a motion to approve the non-public meeting minutes of the 7th as presented.
Second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
All right. Then next on the agenda is, we've invited a representative from Granicus to come speak with the board tonight about their program for finding and helping us to manage the short-term rental pool in this town.
Yeah.
So with that, I'll turn it over to you if you want to introduce yourself and you can begin.
No, absolutely. So I appreciate you having me on here. My name is Bruce McCaskill. I'm with Host Compliance Granicus, and I'm based in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, so just south of you. So I've got everything ready to go. What I plan to show you today, I did another poll this morning, just anticipating the meeting tonight. So I'll show you those fresh numbers, a little bit of the data behind that as well. And then what I'll do is I'll pull up a demo and show you a demo of how our software works. So how we actually identify short-term rentals, match them up with your assessor data, and then ongoingly monitoring them. So you know exactly who's online, who's renting, where they're located, all that information. Does that sound good for everyone?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, great. I'm gonna go ahead and jump in and share my screen. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. I do talk all day long. So if I get long-winded, let me know. If you have any questions, just jump in. Okay, can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to jump around here a little bit. I know time is important. I'll just give you a quick overview of who we are. I'm part of Host Compliance, which is an arm of Granicus. Host Compliance has been around for about almost 6 years now. We started out in the West Coast, and back then there was really no software or platforms out there really for identifying short-term rentals. And what I mean by identifying them is identifying the address, that owner, and then matching it up with your assessor data. So you know where they're located, their address, their parcel ID, and their lot number, and then ongoingly monitoring them. So short-term rentals continuously come off and on based on, you know, special events, weekends, seasonality. Excuse me, I got a little bit of frog in my throat. And I'll explain and walk you through how we actually do that. In the last 5 years, we've grown pretty significantly. We're up to about 375 municipalities throughout the US and Canada. I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I'm going to show you what I pulled here a few minutes ago, give you some live data. But first I'll talk about actually how we get that data so it makes sense. So we're up to about 65 different vacation rental platforms, all short-term rentals. So everything from Airbnb down to Craigslist, international sites as well. Airbnb is still the largest. Airbnb and HomeAway started the short-term vacation rental platform market a little bit over 10 years ago. And as you probably know, it's grown significantly year over year. Airbnb went public in Q4 of last year. At one point, it was almost $100 billion. So they're definitely the leader in this space. HomeAway and VRBO were bought by Expedia Group, which is the online travel agent, typically associated with hotels. They bought them a couple years back, and they're going to merge those two platforms into a single platform. It's going to be under the VRBO platform going forward. So HomeAway is going to go away. It's going to fall underneath there. And then Tripping was bought by TripAdvisor. Just to give you a little hindsight, in the last 12 months with COVID onset, a lot of things kind of happened in the short-term vacation rental market. You know, Airbnb was still doing fine. Most of the hotels, kind of across the nation, we saw about a 40 to 60% drop in their vacancies. And the short-term rentals really only took a small drop. So from March until June of last year in 2020, kind of the height of COVID, we only saw about a 3% drop in short-term rental listings. across the nation. And so what has happened over the last year, a lot of these online travel agents such as pricing.com, booking.com, Expedia, TripAdvisor are starting to acquire kind of the smaller niche short-term vacation rental platforms that are out there and bring them under their umbrella to kind of help with that revenue that was lost with the hotels. So it's been kind of a shift in the different platforms and where their ownership is going, and where these different houses are being listed. So I'll go ahead and show you next what I pulled, and I literally pulled this this morning. This is kind of updated numbers, and I'll explain the numbers so they make sense. That this number 773, where it says unique rental units, that's kind of our language, but the number 773 is the actual properties themselves. So there were 773 properties online this morning that were actively renting. So they were live and currently renting. That number above that, that 968, represents the listings, which is going to be the advertised sites. So Airbnb, Tripping, VRBO, HomeAway, et cetera. And the reason you'll see a difference in those two numbers, a lot of times that host or that owner is going to have their house advertised on different sites at the same time. So they may have their house on Airbnb and then HomeAway as well. That's where you get kind of what we call duplicates, or the difference between the actual properties and listings. So I'll take a break for a second. I know it's kind of hard to see this map. Try to squeeze this Google map in here. Any questions on that? Does that make sense on those numbers and where we get that data from?
Yeah, I have a question.
Absolutely. Volume's on the top.
Hold on one second.
Technical difficulty. Okay, thank
All
you.
right, just as far as
Okay, can you hear me? It seems like it went out for just a minute. I apologize. It's currently on mute, so I can't hear you. Sorry. There we go.
When it dropped out, it muted. You're back, Wyatt.
You're
Okay.
back? Okay.
to get that number of 773 unique rental units, how do you distinguish between the units that are in Lincoln and the units that are near Lincoln but use Lincoln as their header or in their listing or in their location that says near Loon or near Lincoln? Because I know that on like Airbnb I'm familiar with, there's a lot of units that advertise they're in Lincoln and actually they're in Easton or Woodstock or someplace else.
Sure. Right. So I'll explain this two different ways that make sense. So initially what I'm showing you tonight is what we scanned, and this is based on your assessor data. So usually within a couple blocks level, so where the map is of actual your jurisdiction. And then once our software is fully up and running, everything is matched to your assessor data. So we'll have the actual physical address of that owner themselves, where they're located, and we'll have a that direct pin on a map for you. And I'll show you that just a second when I go into demo of where they're located. So that's how kind of the second phase, once we start to partner together, we can we'll have it down to to street level for every address.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, perfect.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, perfect. Okay, let me go to the next screen here just to kind of show you some data behind this. So this is just a breakdown of the data, what was out there this morning. So the average nightly rate was about $225 per night. So it's kind of an average across all those 773 properties that were online. And then if you look below that, there's a breakdown what we call unit types. So this is typically associated with that owner or that owner not being present. So 96% of those homes that were being rented as of this morning were non-owner occupied. So they were renting out the entire house. So that's where that owner is not present. About 4% were partial homes, and that's typically somebody who's renting out maybe a room or two with inside their house where they are present, usually to offset their mortgage or help with insurance costs. So you had a pretty large percentage of entire homes that were being rented. To the left of that, you'll see an actual breakdown of the physical property types. Excuse me. So you have 37% were single family homes, and then 57% were multifamily homes. That little unknown, that 6% where it says unknown home type, that can be a couple different things. So it could be a condo or townhouse. It could be a cabin, an ADU, anything that's not considered like a traditional single home property or multifamily home property. That's just kind of a breakdown of what was out there this morning. Any questions on this slide here?
I have a question. Yeah, you're saying
Sure.
that on the numbers that you used as of this morning, you're saying entire home, 96% of those rental units are entire homes.
You're correct.
That the other 4% are either condos, hotel timeshares that are put on for rentals. That seems like an inordinate amount as far as entire homes being rented out.
Right. Yeah. So 96% is going to be the entire house. You're correct. So that would be where the entire house is being rented. So all rooms, typically, their kitchen, everything inside the house. The partial home, that 4%, typically, it could be somebody that has a house that's renting out a room or two with inside their house. So they're renting, out a single room with inside their house. That's what a partial home indicates.
Could that be a small hotel that's renting rooms on a short-term rental platform?
No. So we distinguish between hotels, bed and breakfast, and then actual short-term rentals within inside of our software. So we'll be able to tell you, if they're, a hotel room, we'll be able to distinguish that. We can also get down to the level of distinguishing, for an example, accessory dwelling. So maybe an ADU. So somebody's maybe renting out a mother-in-law suite, or maybe a room in their backyard, something to that effect.
Because we have a couple of hotels in town that are actually owner owned as far as the units within them. And many of those, such as places called the Mountain Club and Riverwalk, are in rental pools. I see it all the time advertised. And many of those units actually, both the Mountain Club and Riverwalk have lockouts, so that if I own one unit, I could actually have two rentals at the same time, the same as the Mountain Club. If I own the unit, it has one side is got the kitchen and the dining room. The other side is basically a bedroom, private bath, and what have you. How are those differentiated in your numbers?
Sure. So it's going to be based on, so I'll tell you what, let me do this. To answer your question, I'll show you how that works. Let me jump into our software so I can kind of show you how we identify short-term rental, what it looks like, and then see the details behind it. I think that would make sense when I'm answering your question. So give me just 1 second. Let's start a new share here. Okay, can you see my screen now? Can you see this, the dashboard with the map on it?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So let me answer your question. So I'm just gonna, I'll get back to some other.
I hate this internet. Well,
Maybe it's on his end this time.
I think it froze.
I think you're muted. We can't hear you.
He's frozen though. He's not even moving.
He's moving. I can see him moving.
No, we're moving.
His mouth is moving.
Oh.
Recording in progress.
Here it comes. I was muted before. I muted to talk.
Okay, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, perfect. No problem. No problem at all. Don't worry about it. It's technology, right? It happens all the time. So just to give you an example, so I want to kind of address the question. So I'm going to show you, so this is what we call rental unit record. So this is going to be for every single short-term rental that we identify. I'm just showing you for example, so it kind of makes sense. So at the top here, you'll see the actual address of this short-term rental. They're active. We've identified them. They're not compliant. So currently they're, not registered within this city. But I want to show you what it looks like.
Hold on, I'm gonna.
Good example. This is a multifamily home renting rooms, so almost similar to a hotel. And you can see they have 3 different listings within inside Airbnb. These advertised numbers for the different rooms. So each room has its own separate listing and advertised number. And I'm just going to, just kind of rolling through here quickly, but I want to make sure I'm addressing your question. So this is an actual hotel. So it says boutique hotel. So it's more kind of like a bed and breakfast type situation. And they're renting out private rooms. So inside of our system, we're able to identify that and match it up. And that's based on the owner the owner's name, their address, their parcel number, their lot ID, so your all your assessor information. And within inside of our system, we're not going to count this. I'm just showing this an example of how we identify them, but we wouldn't count this as an actual short-term rental because it is considered a hotel or a bed and breakfast. I just want to show you how we collect that data. So that's how we distinguish between, for example, you'd mentioned, a hotel similar to this one, where they're renting out rooms and they have private owners, as far as it coming up inside of our system. So
Yeah.
I just want to go ahead.
Yeah, so Bruce, just to clarify, so with Selectman Daley's question or comment was,
Mhm.
we have two very large
Timeshare hotels.
timeshare hotels that
Sure.
actually have private ownership within them, in addition to a
Rental pool.
rental program that
Right.
you can drive in off the street and get a thing, but each of those private owners gets a tax bill. So you're basing, when you go into our assessors, you're gonna identify the taxable property and tie that to short-term rental, correct?
Correct. Right. So you're exactly correct. So we're matching up to your assessor data, based on who that owner is. And of course, and I'll preface this by, the assessor data are being updated correct, right? Because sometimes there's change of ownership, those type of things, which may take a couple months to pass over the deed or that information to your assessor. But our information is good as your assessor data. So when we locate it, we match it up, and we're not going to show you an identification in our system unless it matches up with your assessor data.
Perfect.
Does that answer your question? I know I'm kind of long-winded. I was just trying to get to the right answer for you and kind of show you how we do it. So that made sense.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I'll go back here. Let me go back here now. Jump through. Go back. So this is our dashboard. So while I'm in here, I'll just go forward with here and explain a little bit more detail about what we can show you as far as numbers, how we can help you manage your short-term rental program with all the data. So this first number up here, and this is just a demo, so this is just has numbers in here, but this first number 69 you see at the top, this is going to be in real time. So this is going to be the number of short-term rentals that are active inside your jurisdiction that are actually live. So this number is not a stagnant number. It changes all the time. So as we're identifying short-term rentals that are new, or if you have people who are taking their listings down for a period of time, this number would be in real time. So you always know when you first log in how many short-term rentals are currently active inside your jurisdiction. Below here, you'll see kind of a breakdown of, we can certainly incorporate, it really depends if it's of interest to you, but we can add short and long-term. So if you just want to see the number of long-term rentals, and what I mean by that is typically anybody who rents for more than a 30-day period is considered a long-term rental, even though it may not be a 12-month rental. That data could be incorporated in our system, so you can see that information if needed. Below here, you'll see a breakdown of bedrooms and bathrooms, and this is for all the short-term rentals that we've identified. So if you have any type of occupancy levels that are important, either based maybe on sewer or septic requirements or parking issues, those type of things, and you have certain occupancies per house or maybe per bedroom, you'll be able to see that inside of our system if they're exceeding those occupancies. The only reason I bring that up is I do have some customers in California, and a big issue with them is a lot of these multifamily homes are, putting 4 bunk beds in a single bedroom and, filling 8 or 10 people in a bedroom, and it's causing issues to septic or, parking issues. And that's just something a trend that we're starting to see, almost like a hostel, if you will. They're just loading as many people as they can in a rental. So I just want to let you know we can identify that. Below here, you'll see what we call compliance status. So this is going to be based on who's currently registered or who has a business license inside of our system. So when we initially partner with you, we get a download of all the short-term rentals that are currently registered or permitted inside your jurisdiction. And then as we identify these short-term rentals, the new ones that are coming on, we can cross-reference them and see who's currently compliant and who's not compliant. So just for an example, this is showing currently about 57% of the short-term rentals that we've identified in this area are not compliant. They do not have a short-term rental license.
And just for clarification,
yes.
This is in your mythical town. This is not the town of Lincoln, right?
That's correct, right? This is just showing just data, right? Yes, absolutely. Just showing you what we can do, so it makes sense. Thanks for pointing that out. You're correct. And then I mentioned before, breakdown of property types. So partial home versus entire home. So just showing in this area, about 75% we're renting out the entire house versus the partial home. And then the breakdown of single family, multifamily. Over here is just trends. So once we've identified a short-term rentals, we know who that owner is and where they're located. We're taking snapshots of their actual listing every 2 days. And I'll show you in a second why that's important. But by taking these snapshots every 2 days, we're seeing what they're renting, whether they're online or offline, and that's all incorporated in kind of what we call units over time. So you can see kind of trends when you have special events or seasonality, weekends. You can see kind of when they trend up and trend down, to kind of give you a little bit of predictable analysis on that. Now I'll go up here and I'll show you the map next. So like I mentioned, when we identify short-term rental, once we've identified them, we put them on a map, on a Google map with a pin in their exact location. And these can be color coded. So for example, this specific customer wanted everything color coded in red for those that were not compliant. So that way they can just take a quick look at the map and see, okay, who's online right now that's not currently compliant, they're not registered with the city. Now, this is a traditional Google map, so it's very interactive. You can go to satellite view and go down to street level. So if you want to know exactly where they're located, typically, code enforcement has to kind of drive around to try to identify if they get tips when short-term rentals are located. This will give you down to the street level. You'll know exactly where they're located. I'll go back to map side here. And once we've identified a short-term rental, like I mentioned, I was showing the rental unit record. I'll just pick up a different one to show you a little bit of difference here. But everything is stored in the rental unit record for each of those properties, all that data. So this is just a different property here, showing that, they're active. We've identified them. They're not compliant, so they're not currently registered. Here's their Airbnb advertised number, their listing with the detailed info on that. And then below here, you'll see, they're renting out the entire home. The last screenshot that was captured was on June 21st. So it looks like they did this morning. They're charging $104 per night, and then they're charging $55 cleaning fees. That's just kind of a listing details about that specific location of that house. Below here, you'll see a breakdown. They're having requesting a minimum night stay of 2 nights. You have to stay there for a minimum of 2 nights. And then they're allowing from an occupancy level of 2 people per bedroom for that entire house. So they have 2 bedrooms, so 4 people total within inside that house in that location. Now below here is what I mentioned was doing these screenshots, and we do those every 2 days, taking a screenshot once we've identified a listing. So I'll go ahead and just click on here to show you what it looks like. So this is Airbnb. This was done, looks like it's done on Friday. But we do these screenshots. And so just to give you an example, each Airbnb listing typically has about 150 different data points within inside of that advertisement or that listing. So by taking these snapshots, we're collecting all that data for you. So everything from the description of their location, how much they're charging per night, their cleaning fees, their calendar availability. So when they've been booked and when they're open, and then time and date stamp reviews, all the details around that specific location. Now, all this information is ciphered into our software where you can run simple reports and get that information. But I just wanted to show you where the information is coming from so that it makes sense. So we're not expecting you to go in every screenshot and look for this. I just kind of want to give you an indication of where this data comes from so it does make sense. So let me go back to this listing here. Now over to the right is what we're going to call timeline history. So by taking these snapshots, we're going to be able to document all the timelines of when they're online, offline, and when they've actually rented. So for example, you can see this listing came on first in July of 2018, and you'll see kind of going up all these what we call documented stays. And I'll go ahead and just kind of talk you through how we do documented stays. So like I mentioned, we take snapshots of their calendars, and then we're looking at time and date stamp reviews. So for example, with like HomeAway or Airbnb, if a renter wants to leave a review, they have to request it from Airbnb or HomeAway to let them leave a review. And what Airbnb or HomeAway will do is they'll go and verify that that person actually stayed there, so they're getting a fair review. Once they've gone through and documented that, say, for example, John Doe stayed there for 3 nights, and they're going to go ahead and give them permission and let them leave a review. Now, once they leave a review, because we are scanning their calendars and we're looking at these documented stays and these reviews, we're able to match that up. And that's what we call a documented stay. So what that kind of eliminates is somebody who's saying, you know, I've rented to, you know, my family member or my brother, or maybe I didn't rent at all during this month, or last week I didn't have any rentals. It's kind of the proof behind the pudding on what we call documented stays. And you'll see that kind of to the right here on that timeline. You'll also see, you know, when they take their listing down and when they come back on. So they removed it, for example, on the 13th, and then came back on August 16th, reposted their listing again. The reason that's important is sometimes they make changes. So for example, if there's a certain number of nights, if you limit nights for the year they're allowed to rent, or if you have limitations on occupancy levels or things of that matter. And I'm not saying all hosts do this, but you know, there's a few who do. You know, you'll be able to see any changes they made to their posting when they repost it and when they take it down. So be able to identify any changes. So I know it's a lot of information. I've been talking a whole bunch. I'll take a break here for a second. Any questions? Does that make sense? And kind of all that information?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, perfect. And up here, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that's good, Bruce, thanks.
Oh, perfect, okay. And up here is just identification. So you'll see their parcel number here, the owner name. They're from California, so they're obviously not a local person. They're somebody from out of town that's renting. Longitude and latitude, if you want to download this data into your GIS system for mapping, it's really simple to do that as well. So that's what we call rental unit records. I just want to kind of show you where the data is behind this. The next thing I'll show you is what we call compliance monitoring. So once we've identified a short-term rental and they're not registered or not compliant, the next step is, you know, how do you effectively reach out to these hosts and get them through that process of getting registered? How do you communicate with them? So what's inside of our system, it's really simple. And I'll just kind of show you what it looks like in real time. You can do this by bulk. So you can do this by, you know, everybody that you've identified in the past 30 days, maybe it's a couple hundred short-term rentals, or you can do it kind of as a one-off. I'm just going to show you an example of a one-off. You would just click send a letter, and then we're going to have these templates pop up. So within inside of our system, we have hundreds of templates, and these templates are based on our customers that have best practices, letters that were really effective, that really help to kind of push those hosts or those owners through the registration process. So the idea behind it is you really don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can use one of the templates that one of our customers developed, and then maybe change some of the language around to kind of customize it for you. So these letters, I'll bring one up just for an example. This is kind of a first no permit letter. This letter is going to have your letterhead on there. It's going to look like your logo. So it looks like it's coming directly from your jurisdiction, as far as information wise. And like I mentioned, you can customize these kind of based on your message, but you know, you could definitely use some best practices that have been real successful. You'll typically, you know, let that owner know that you've identified them on Airbnb. Here's their listing number. And, you know, we have a, registration process that you need to adhere to. Here's how to get registered. And then typically have a time frame on there, you know, maybe 30 days from the postmark of the letter, or 60 days, depending on, you know, what kind of time frame you want to give them to go through and get registered. Now, when we send a first letter out, we always contain a second page. Let me show you for an example what a second page looks like. The second page is going to be a full screen snapshot of their listing. So what I was showing you earlier. So the reason we do that is we just find it really effective to kind of let that host know that, you know, we know you're online. Here's your Airbnb listing. It's probably in your best interest to go through the process of doing the right thing and getting registered. So we find it highly effective to attach that second page. I live in South Carolina, and if you go through a red light, you'll typically get, you know, get a fine in the mail, and then, you know, a picture of your license plate. So kind of same premise idea behind that. It's kind of give that extra push to get that host or owner to go through that registration process. So yeah, so it's really, it takes about 30 seconds to send the letter out. Now we physically mail the letters out for you. We store all the letters in our system. So the idea behind it is you don't have to reinvent the wheel and craft a letter. You don't have to physically go down and mail these letters out and then follow back up with them. We kind of take that whole process off your plate, which makes it, you know, more, you know, we think at least more effective from a resource perspective. And then, you know, obviously, you know, trying to get that higher compliancy rate. So I'll take a break for a second here on, that's our compliance monitoring. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? Kind of how that works?
Bruce, when you presented this to us on the compliance monitoring, first you had a percentage of success, and then
yes, Mhm.
The second mailing, it went up drastically. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So last quarter, our average first letter generated 72% compliancy. So 72% of the letters that we sent out, those hosts were registered. The second letter that we can send out, typically a second letter is a little bit stronger legal language. Usually it's certified. When we get to the second letter, we're typically in the upper 80 to lower 90 percentile of people getting registered. Now that's across all of our 375 customers. We do have customers, believe it or not, who are 100% compliant, and they have everybody registered. I don't know how they do it because it's even sending letters out and going through the whole process, 100% is really good. But yeah, that's our average kind of across the board.
Bruce, do you send copies of the correspondence to the local entity, i.e. a town or city?
It's going to be inside the system, so you can. A good question. So let me show you right here. Jump back here. Good question. So everything I'm showing you is documented within inside of our systems. Let me just show you an example. Let me pull up a listing rental unit here. Yeah, so when we send a letter out, before we physically mail it out, what we do is we scan it in a PDF and then upload it into our system. So everything attached is attached to that specific rental unit or that owner. So you'll be able to see all those letters that have been sent out. This one's a little bit busy here. Let me just get back to the property. So go back here. I'll pull you up property real quick so you can see what it looks like. But yeah, we do. So you'll be able to see all the letters. And you'll be able to run reports. So we're not going to send letters out, and we want you to approve the letter first, obviously agree in the letter before we mail it out. And then everything inside of our system is documented. So you'll be able to see when the letter was sent. You'll be able to see, the time frame. Did they respond? If they registered in your system or not? If it's our system, it will be real time because we're handling the registration. So that will be within inside of our system. Let me just pull up one here so I can show you an example. Sorry, I'm jumping around. I just want to make sure I'm answering your questions correctly. So just take a second here. Let's see. See if they've got one here. Documented stay. Jittery. Sorry, I'm jumping around here a little bit. Yeah, it's going to be on the actual this page, but it's easier just to see in a report form. So you can have a report that's running of all the letters that we sent out for the week or for that month. See who it was sent to. You'll see a copy of the actual PDF of that letter that was sent with the dates on it. And then once they register, you'll be able to see, okay, they're compliant now, they're registered, and obviously we wouldn't send any more letters out. But all that is documented within inside of our system. So you don't have to go, searching for all that information. Is really easy to find. And the best way to do this by reports.
Thank you.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Who initiates the sending of the letters? Like, does your company just do that automatically? You find a non-compliant rental and obviously we'd approve the template.
Right.
You just go ahead and do that?
No. So we'll do it. It's all based on you. So it's on how you want to handle this. We work with you and your team, and then we'll set a date and we'll let you know. We'll say, okay, we've identified, let's say, for an example, we've identified 100 new short-term rentals this month. We send over the letter for you to approve it. You say, yes, the letter looks good. We load up the letter in our system. And then, we would touch base with you and say, okay, we're going to send the letter out on this date and have you approve that before we mail it out. So we don't do anything unless it's, we're collaborating together and everybody's on the same page.
Okay. And then once they get that letter, who do they register with? Is that back here at Town Hall, or is that part of the Granicus service?
No, so we can offer that part of our service for you. So two different ways. So if you do have like a paper process or an online process, on the back end, what we would do is, as people register, probably get a data from you like once a month to upload in our system so we can match it up so we know who's registered and who's not. The other side to that we can offer is we actually offer an online registration for you. I've actually got one. Let me pull it up here really quick. I'll show you what it looks like. A real one. It's kind of live. It's a live one, but I'll show you what it looks like so it makes sense. So let's see here. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen one more time. Sorry, I know I'm jumping around a lot. I want to make sure I'm addressing your questions. I'm going to pull this one up here. So this is an actual live portal. This is for Elk Rapids in Michigan. So we can build an online portal for you. It's not only online, it's also built for smartphones, so it's smartphone enabled. So the idea behind it is make it as easy as possible for that host or that owner to go through that registration process, and then obviously, try to take the workload off of your staff. So a host or an owner can literally go through the registration process from any device that has an internet access. So a computer, a laptop, an iPad, or smartphone. And then on the back end, what we're doing is we're gathering all your requirements, so everything that you require as a short-term rental host to get registered. So all the paperwork. So obviously, driver's license, maybe insurance paperwork. If you have any type of inspections, fire safety inspections, if they have to register with the state, any of the processes that are required by your jurisdiction, we incorporate that into our registration portal. I'll just show you an example. This is live, but I'll kind of click through to give you a good example. So if I was a new short-term rental host and registering, it comes up as an option of either renewing an existing license or registering for the first time. So click here and register the first time. This city here requires they want a floor plan, a parking plan, and then proof of insurance. So they'd have to click through and say, yes, I have all these documents that are required. And they would click on next and then say, I'm an owner or I'm a property manager. So I don't know if you have, it sounds like you do have property managers that are maybe managing properties. We can accommodate them as well. So I'm just going to click on I'm an owner here. And then it would ask for typically the parcel number to identify them. If they don't have their parcel number, we'll have a link directly to, either the county site or your assessor data so they can look that up. They would put in their parcel number. I can't put one in here because this is live, but hopefully you're getting kind of the idea behind this, and go through. If any of the information is they don't have it with them, we're not going to let them complete the actual registration. What will happen is we'll let them know that we can save their data so far, and they need to go and get a copy of that documentation. Now, we make it really simple for that owner to upload information. They can simply take their smartphone, so take their iPhone or Google phone and take a picture of maybe their driver's license or insurance paperwork and then upload it into our system in a PDF. So they don't have to go through a scanner and those type of things. And we make it kind of Q&A. So as we go through, we're basically digitizing your application. We're just asking these questions. So we're making sure that we're getting all the documentation that you need. Once they've gone through the whole process and we've collected the documents, what will happen next is we can send that email to that owner saying, thanks for registering, with your jurisdiction. We'll be back with you shortly. And what happens inside of our system is we'll email or text the clerk or the business office, whoever handles these registrations, and let them know that a completed application is inside of our system, and to log in and give it the final approval. So then the clerk or the business office can log into our system and look and see, okay, there's all the documents. We know who this person is. We've got all that information, and just click approve, and then you can issue the license. That's kind of the process we go through on that end. We have very few customers that want us to go kind of issue the license and do all the final approvals, just because, typically about 99%, I would say, want to have kind of the final approval before they issue that license. So I know it's a lot of information. I'll take a break here for a second again. So this is our registration portal. Typically what happens is once they're registered, usually about 60 to 90 days before their renewal is due, we'll email that owner or that host, reminding them that they have to go through and pay their, the renewal license for the registration, with the time and date with a link to our site, and just, email them 90 days and typically about 30 days ahead of time, and, encourage them to go through that process. Any questions on the registration portion? Does that make sense?
Yep.
We're good.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm getting everybody's questions answered. I know it's a lot of information to kind of do in a half an hour. Okay, perfect. I'll go back. I'm just going to go back to kind of the main screen here. Stop here, go back. I'll take a break for a second. I don't want to overkill it. I know it's a lot of information, a lot of data wise. Is there anything that I missed or anything that I need to clarify or anything that can help as far as kind of what?
If you could move quickly to how you determine your fees, or not quickly, but I think
Sure. No, I'll show you right now. Yeah, I'll show you actually how we do that. So it's based on the number of listings that you have, at a certain price. I'll share with you what. So let me preface this way. So Samantha was working with Butch previously, and she secured him a pretty significant discount. So I've kept that discount. So I'm just going to bring up the pricing itself, if that makes sense, and I'll explain how we do that. So let me pull that up. I know I've got it up here. Share this. Okay, can you see my screen okay? Did it come up?
Not great, but they've got it up on their computer, so hopefully.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, right, perfect. So this is just a breakdown of the 3 modules. Now these are locked in. Our pricing is locked in for 12 months. So we initially started about 6 years ago. We looked at it from a monthly basis, which didn't make sense for us for billing or for any municipalities because you have to have a predictable budget. So our pricing is locked in. So regardless if you're, let's say your listings go from 900 to 1500 in August, we're not going to charge you anything additional above that 900 because we locked the pricing in for 12 months, regardless of any changes. And these are kind of a breakdown of the actual fees here based on the address identification. Everything is a la carte. I know this is what Samantha had provided as pricing, based on the number of short-term rental units that you actually have. But what I showed you today was the address identification, which is our core module, the mobile permitting and registration, which I just showed you a minute ago, and the compliance monitoring is sending out all the letters and all the communication with the hosts themselves. So the total would be this amount here, the 31,139 on an annual basis. And I did mention to Butch that we can certainly set this up quarterly if based on budgets, if that's would be fit in better. We can have this broken out into quarterly billing, so you're not paying for everything up front. You pay it as you go, and then hopefully starting bringing in registrations to start help self-fund it and pay for it, and that way you have a chance to get bring some revenue in before you have to pay for the whole thing.
Yeah, and Bruce, if I could jump in, I think we discussed, and Samantha had too, that the town charges $50 for a permit fee, which
right, way too low.
Way too low, and
yes,
it's, I believe, I don't want to put words in you guys' mouth, but the process should pay for itself and then some.
Exactly.
To get the fees up where.
Yeah, I can give you a national average is a national average a year ago is $250, and it's actually going up now. We're seeing more trends to $400 to $500 a month, but the average nationally is about $250 to $300 for a registration fee. That's just the average, and that's across all cities, small, big, large. And the reason being, like you mentioned, right, it has to be self-funded. And let me just show you an example before I jump back out why that's important. So let me jump over here real quick. This will be the last second here. Your average nightly rate is $225. So show you here, sorry. This is your average nightly rate. So the reason behind it, this is a best practice. Most municipalities look at their average nightly rate. And the reason being a single night rented would pay for their license. So you're not having an egregious, outrageous fee. That's the cost of doing business for most homeowners. If they rent one night, that's the cost for them to get a registration license. So it's not an outrageous fee.
Bruce, is your contract initially an annualized or is it a multi-year contract?
It's however you want. So we work with you. So typical is 12 months, but I do have customers that want to lock in the rate for predictability of budgets that lock them in for 24 to 36 months and just say, bill me, quarterly for the next 2 years, bill me annually for the next 3 years, and I want to have the same rate locked in. So it really depends on how,
we can go for an annual contract, 1 year.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Minimum. It's just a minimum 1 year. Exactly.
I only asked them to do a year check.
Well, if we had a multi-year contract, we'd have to have it out in case it wasn't voted on. It was, in case it was voted out by the voters.
Yeah, so I
we'd
did
have
it
to
1
have it
year.
out,
And,
right.
yeah.
Right. No, that's perfect. Yeah. I just want to let you know that we're flexible. Everybody's different, right? So we're flexible based on your needs and what works with you.
Yeah, any contract would have to be contingent upon budget approval at our annual meeting.
Sure. That makes sense. Okay. Any other questions? Anything else that I may have missed or anything you want clarification on?
I think I'm good. I mean,
Yeah.
I think if the board's good, I mean, this is about the third time I've heard it, Bruce, so I think I can safely say thank you. This is the first time the board has actually seen the presentation, so
right.
I'm
Oh,
sure
good. Okay.
There'll be discussions and hopefully we'll
Absolutely.
phone/emails and from here out, but we,
Yeah, just let me know. I can help. Butch has my number, my email. I mean, he literally called me right this afternoon, said jump on. So hopefully that kind of gives you a good of impression of the service that we can provide. We're here to help. So
Thank you very much.
I appreciate everybody's time today. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Have a good night.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, and it had fallen off our radar. I literally called him at 5 minutes of 5 and said, I forgot to send you the link. And he said, no problem, I've been on since 6 o'clock this morning. And so the
Wow.
service, so, yeah. So,
Well, I was just looking at some of the numbers. We have about 740 registered.
No,
The-
no,
Yes.
no.
Only got about 300.
So, all right, so correct me if I'm wrong. Every time we have somebody register, it goes down to the PD so they can put it in a database so they have a
Well,
contact.
It's a
correct?
spreadsheet that should be forwarded when Lisa updates it.
Yep,
It should be forwarded probably once a week. She's forwarding a copy of the
Right.
Excel spreadsheet to them.
and they're creating a database
That I don't know.
I don't know.
And
what
I
to
just
do.
don't know what the PD's doing with
because
it.
they're at 641.
Oh, God.
That doesn't
today.
match
There's
up.
no way.
330's all, 337.
Well, then somebody did something mixed
Yeah,
up there
that's
somewhere.
what we were told.
337.
Where did you get the number 600?
I wish.
I called down there today and asked because they knew that making it,
They got alarm.
A
They're
database.
talking alarm. They're
no,
getting alarms.
STR database.
Then it didn't come from us. It did not come from us. So
It,
it didn't come from us.
Okay.
What do we have?
337, 300.
I gave the last set of minutes, hold on. I don't
Okay,
have them. The last set of minutes, Lisa provided an update to the board on June 2nd.
anyway, if we get the 968 times the $50 covers this, even if it's the 773. I mean, if they can get compliance even at 90%, even at the $50, it'll cover the fee.
We're gonna
And
come
if we
ahead
double the-
3 to 5,000.
Right, if we double the fee, there's enough to cover our staff here and Granicus. So, I mean, it's,
Tim, if we're getting almost 2/3, why don't we need identity to do the work?
Because we don't have staff.
right.
This
It's
is
a staff
eating up my whole staff's time monitoring this short-term rental. They literally do nothing.
And it's the other end of it too, Jack, the ones that aren't registered. It's the getting them to register. It's the monitoring them. It's, like, we're getting this application that says I have a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house. Here's my $50 because that's what my tax card says. And then we don't have the staff to go on
Check.
Airbnb, HomeAway, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and see that it's really an 8-bedroom house with 9 bathrooms.
And they're
Even
doing
though-
snapshots every 2 days.
Exactly.
That is huge.
So it's that monitoring part of it, so
Oh.
that, we can stay on top of things. Or the basement bedroom with one means of egress and no exterior windows that has 37 bunk beds in it. Those are the ones that, they're gonna help us with. And it's more than we can
Well, I
handle,
don't
there's
know
no
how
question.
much of that specific case, but, we start going around like to Holland Brook and places like that. And again, I don't know the answer, that's why I'm asking the question. I mean, is Holland Brook individually deeded units?
They have a combination of both, and that's the problem, and that's why they're having trouble monitoring themselves, because private owners who get tax bills are saying, I'm renting.
Yeah.
I mean, we're running into that, so that's what this looks like for us.
So, I mean, I made a list of questions here that I don't know the answer to. Holland Brook was one of them. What about meals and room tax? The Airbnb, those that are, is there a meals and room tax on Airbnb in New Hampshire? I had a
Yes,
conversation with,
Short-term rentals, yeah.
there is,
Yes.
okay, because I had a conversation with the selectman.
And
Let him show you that today, and he
Airbnb-
said it was.
Airbnb and I think the RBO, a couple of them,
They pay it
they
themselves.
take it out of
pay
the
it
fee
from
and
the
they
fee.
pay it, so
That's what
that,
I thought.
right.
But when I talked with one of the selectmen in Sugar Hill today, his son works in Sununu's office, he said he didn't think there was. And he said,
Absolutely.
I thought there was.
Yeah,
but I-
Yeah, it's fire alarm.
Airbnb collects that fee.
It's
and
under
they-
contract with the property owner that they.
To go on their
They
platform. you have
deduct
to-
room and meals and pay it directly to the state of
Okay.
Hampshire.
I'll
But
get
you
back
can,
with them tomorrow.
but you can't, you ask the state of New Hampshire for an accounting of how much rooms and meals. They will not give it,
They won't.
they will not private, they said it's confidential.
Right, but that's,
But
it's that way
my
with
point
hotels
is,
too.
my point is, right, that's the frustration is, so that what he says is we have to determine as a town, we get the data for our personal needs, we can or cannot forward the info to New Hampshire. for it brings in
Well,
meals.
part of our registration is their tax, rooms and meals
It
tax
does,
number.
but we don't, yes. But
And
if they don't provide
don't-
it, we don't, at least now, we don't report it.
If it's not provided, it's an incomplete application.
Yeah,
Does the
that's.
the people that rent long-term or seasonal, are they required to register also?
No,
Short-term rentals, the state definition is more than,
less than
less
30 days.
than,
Less than
that was-
30 days.
yeah, but less than 30
Less
days.
Less than 30 days.
Okay, so they don't, they're not
And what he's
required.
saying is if the town, you guys, or the town voted to include long-term rentals, which is greater than 30 days, but less than full-time, whatever that is, then they could incorporate that into their system. We're looking just short-term right now.
Right. Way more than the long-term rentals.
To get to the next point, that, again, concern or question is, if you have an ordinance on the books that doesn't have any teeth to it, any enforcement, like this woman that we heard about across the street, screw you, I'm not registering it, I'm not gonna pay the fine. What should we get legal involved and decide whether or not we're gonna lien the property and pay for those costs out of the money that comes in? What I don't want to see is us burden the taxpayers with, fighting a war that people are making money off, and we're spending the taxpayers' money. That's not what I want to see. I want to see those that are renting out pay their fair share. And, if we have to go up on the fee to cover the costs, like you said, because we don't have the staffing, or we're gonna have legal involved, we got court fees and all that stuff. I mean, let's make sure it's gonna cover our costs.
Right, so I talked to Peter Malley about it, and this is a town ordinance. And like every town ordinance, we can start the process. We have it already in the ordinance where it starts off at initially a written warning, then the second one is, it continues, it's $500.
Yeah.
And it keeps going. And the question I asked Peter is at some point, can we make this lien the property?
Right.
And he said, like any other ordinance, yes. I mean, there's a court process, we have to notify, but it can be done and it just hangs on there.
However, Granicus, we don't even have to go that route. Granicus will report them to
Oh, that's a big deal.
Airbnb, VRBO,
At 65.
Elway, et cetera, et cetera. They do that reporting and let them know that this short-term rental in Lincoln is not in compliance. They haven't registered with the town and none of the
But
short-term
my-
rental
my-
companies want that.
But my response to that is, screw you, I'm gonna rent it on my own. I gotta put it on Facebook, or I'm gonna put it on this. I've got a 3-bedroom unit for rent, or, there is a site, rent your own, whatever the heck it is.
There's always gonna be one.
Yeah,
There's
no,
one in every
and
crowd.
I'm just saying,
you know?
people that
Yeah.
don't wanna pay the
I
fees.
think it's minimal, because most of them, it's my understanding, and I know there's at least one in here that if you get a black mark
Mhm.
from a customer, that's why they go to great lengths to verify that, A, the person really stated
Yes.
OJ's and actually had to stay, and then gives permission, we want to see what their comment was, but if they goofed up, if they messed up the damage of property and he gives them a gig, that carries through all the platforms.
Right,
So pretty soon the
Right.
platforms won't take them, right now it's 65.
right.
And, which includes Facebook, okay, and all of them, and they, pretty soon, good luck. You go try to put it on. If somebody can get through, Jack, yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
of course.
All right,
they will.
but
We
it's
know
not-
But
it.
again, if we get 90% or
Oh, yeah.
98%, I mean, if you're trying to rent your unit out and you're avoiding Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO, you're avoiding all of those to try to sneak something in. Yeah, you can do it, but it's gonna be,
Yeah, have fun.
yeah.
And I just said, it's what they do, and we pay for it, there's no doubt, but we aren't paying.
Right.
The fees will pay is they have, what I understand is a huge dispatch center, and I believe it's Alberta, Canada. And that's all they 24/7, and they do snap, everybody gets an account. We'll be
Right.
on some regional guy's account, got
Right.
it out, and they just 24/7. They
Right.
do snapshots of everything going on here, and we don't have that kind of.
Yeah, no, he said he's got 325 customers
Yeah.
across the country.
Country, so, and some of the cities, LA, San Francisco.
Yeah.
You know, and so,
Ron has a,
Yeah, okay, Ron?
I think if you can get to 90% compliance, with that many people registered, they're gonna police their own, and the ones that aren't registered or troublesome, we will find out about them.
That's
So,
true.
so to take 10% pass versus 65% that aren't registered currently roughly, I think it's better use of funds, the offset revenue that we'll get from getting that 90% revenue.
When does the current registration run out? Is it December 31st?
Annual?
Yeah.
It's
An
a
annual.
and then
calendar
we're
year.
already, we have one flagrant violator that we're doing as a test case now.
Yeah.
I believe. And we're.
But I mean,
doing
here's my goal
500
with
a
this.
day, and we've got,
So
we're trying to draft.
we've got another 6 months, right? And we've already collected roughly 15,000 and some change. So when the new fee goes in
16.
January, then we can allocate that, at least half of it towards the balance of a year. So we'd be rolling like from a July 1st date.
We have
what
it
I'm saying.
right now, his,
No,
So in other words,
Unexpected.
right now, we've collected 15 grand
Okay.
on the, let's say
no,
300.
16,850.
Yeah,
Whatever.
well, I'm using 300 at $50,
Okay.
15,000. So we got $15,000. So we haven't got any money in the budget. There's no line item for contractual services. But we've got this quote excess cash because of this new
Mhm.
language in the code enforcement. So we've got 15 grand. So now we start a new fiscal year and January 1st. So we can take the fee for that if we don't raise it and pay off the next 6 months of the contract.
we can do it in 3 months.
Theoretically.
So we could do
Yeah.
3 months.
See what I'm saying?
The-
And then if we raise it, then we've got surplus going for the next
Yeah.
year.
It'll be self-generating.
It's self-pay.
It's self-generating.
And
We
we'll
have-
have a
here's my
little
thought.
to
A little
offset.
cushion.
It takes about 90 days if we sign the contract tomorrow before, because they immediately got to come in and get our assessing data, they set up the program. So to Jack's point, if there was a way, we'd have to look at it. It's a enforcement mechanism. So my suggestion, just a suggestion, if the board agrees that this is the way to go, that we could get a contract in place, and they're willing to negotiate and do quarterly setup with using the journal in other words, we've got a journal entry of 17-ish
Mhm.
$1,000 that have come in to the general fund. And we could, I would think we could go against just as permanent enforcement. Because we already.
You want
trying
to start
enforce
this
it.
when, like now?
I'd like to start it in the next couple of months.
I totally disagree. It goes against all transparency that we should have as government. Totally.
I'm just saying. we
It
can be
needs to
much
go
more
through the
transparent.
budget, needs to go through the budget process, needs to be voted on by the voters. It needs to be transparent. And then after March town meeting, April 1st, we can sign our contract and start it. I don't think it should start before that. I think you lose all transparency. I don't agree with starting it now. We need it. It would be a great thing. We don't have that line item in our budget. I disagree with doing it yet. I am absolutely gung ho 100% right after town meeting and it's voted on, but not until then.
I would have trouble signing a contract for something that was not in the budget and trying to squeeze that out of this year. We had a budget cut at the town meeting. We're working on that downsized budget, And I mean, $31,000. I mean, even if the revenue was 100,000,
Mm.
we can't spend that 31 unless we find it in the current budget, regardless of what the offsetting income is. With that being said, we'll start the budget process here. Seems like in a few months, but in October, November. And that, this could be in that proposed budget and go through the whole process. And if, this gets approved at town meeting, and actually if it gets approved at town meeting, we can move forward then. What I think between now and then would give us a chance to see where litigation and compliance enforcement is gonna go. If we have someone who's already told us to, right, that they're aware of the ordinance, they're not gonna register, they're not gonna pay us money, and they're not gonna pay the fines. Let's send them the letter, and the second letter, and the third letter, and take
Keep track
action.
of
And,
our legal fees.
I guess I wanna know for myself, but also be able to tell the taxpayers that if we use this service and someone's identified and they stand up and refuse to, there's a path to resolve.
The ordinance says teeth.
Yeah, as opposed to, okay, we're gonna get this list of all these people that are non-compliant, and we're gonna just let them off and do nothing. I'd like to see and prove that we can make something happen.
Then it would pay for itself without burning the taxpayer.
Yeah, and I gotta say, I'm only familiar with Airbnb, but I know that if they're aware that a rental unit on their platform is illegal, that they take it off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
And that's, I guess, from what we're told, that pretty much all the platforms have that as a basis. So
For the most
65,
part,
some of
yeah.
them we don't see because they're other parts of the world, but
Right.
they're all on the base.
right, and again, if we get the 90%, we're doing good.
Yeah,
So if you take home away, VRBO, Airbnb, the big ones, and they'll remove them. They will remove them.
Okay. I'm just
I
trying to give us
am
some relief,
absolutely all for it. It just,
Okay.
yeah.
I got it.
Has to go to town meeting,
But
but definitely I'm.
let's see if
want
we
it to
can, I
happen.
mean, has this person, have they been sent?
Yeah.
An initial letter
They've been, I think, 2 letters. I gotta check.
from,
I didn't check today. I think it's the second or third letters
from us or from
Yeah.
our attorney?
from us. So every 10 days, again, that's another
Oh, we hand deliver
500 bucks a day.
in service and in service.
Certified.
Okay, so
And they're not answering.
And regular mail.
And regular mail on this, so it's costing us
That way, if
certified
they
and
re-
regular.
that way, if they refuse to sign certified, it would regular mail also.
So I believe this one case is it's over $200 or not $2,500. And it's added up every 10 days, it's going another $500.
Okay,
And
and
we've heard nothing from the owner, zero, no calls.
do we know what platforms they're listed on?
We don't. I don't know.
No.
We'd have to, I'll check with these, but we know.
That was stimulated by a complaint. They were
Complaint.
complaining.
So keep track of expenses, including
Yeah,
hours
attorney.
spent on this with our staff
Yeah.
and whatnot, and as best you can guess.
We
so
said
that-
5 hours on this one case and one.
In one day, sure. So then when we go to town meeting or to the budget committee or whatever it is, we can say, look, this is one case. We have 600 that haven't registered. Here's one case. And this is the amount of
Yeah.
staff hours and the amount
And
of.
we are getting folks that have registered, dropping dimes on people I know.
I'm sure,
It is happening.
I'm sure.
Well, I think the ones that voluntarily registered see the value of a level playing field.
Mhm.
So even though it's $50, if the neighbor didn't register, you know what, if I did it voluntarily, I'm gonna make sure that they do it. This kind of the mentality.
Mhm,
So
I get that.
That's true, that's true. Okay, I
on
don't need-
another thing though,
And the truck.
I think it's a great idea and I love it.
So
It's just,
Okay.
I did get a
It's gonna
chance
get
to
right.
ask one of the associations questions today if there was any movement on more restrictive covenants in regards to, changing the minimum stay threshold, and it was shut down because most of their people are short-term renters and it got shut down. So within a lot of the associations, the board members that are actually operating short-term rentals are not looking for any regulation within their little community.
Sure.
So really, we're kind of in this, I'm not going to get a lot of support from the associations right now.
Right.
Don't think we are.
Doesn't appear that we are.
Well, because the boards, a lot of the board makeup, at least in this one, is short-term rental operators. So if you have a board of short-term rental operators, they're not going to regulate themselves.
Did we send
Or
out,
make it
we were
restricted.
gonna send out something to the homeowners, the presidents, the homeowners association?
They all got,
Mhm.
all the letters that were sent to everybody, they've got.
They got up to
Yeah.
all the homeowners, presidents,
Yeah,
asking for those that within their confines. that-
And the management companies that are pulling their hair out trying to handle complaints
Yeah,
are being shut down.
really,
When they really want to enforce, they're being told,
shame.
we'll just have to deal with it because we're not going to stifle the short-term rental.
But the short-term rental industry is pretty strong right now.
sure is.
They're a powerful entity to deal with right now because of the numbers.
They had record growth in 2020 as
Right.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just surprised. I thought the homeowners associations, and even those who have the short-term rentals would support this, because it's really about, when cars are parked out on the street, that we have someone to call, or we can give them some number to call. We have a contact person.
Well, it's at least two of them that there was one person looking to make it more restrictive within that association, and that fell by the wayside because it was outvoted by the operators. So
Yeah, and again, we haven't, as a town, expressed any interest, at least at this point, to make anything more restrictive. It's just finding out who do we contact?
voluntary
You know,
compliance.
Who do we contact? And there's a problem, which kind of makes me just want to make sure we're on the same page as far as, the purpose for registering it. I guess in my mind was, number one, that we had contact information so that there could be communication in an effective way to deal with complaints. And then the second purpose is to look at the compliance as far as bedroom and bathrooms
Like, see,
versus what's on the assessment card versus what they've
And that's-
advertised for.
Number one should be life safety.
Safety.
When
Correct.
people are advertising for 10 or 12 individuals, like Tammy said, and they're sticking them in a basement, the kids, or in the attic, without a second means of
Right.
egress, with no smoke detectors.
Right.
That should be the focus of this. I mean, everything else should fall behind that. And I know Ron's doing his
And I
best.
agree, but the basis, what OJ said, a lot of the revenue that this town depends on is water and sewer tap fees
Right.
based on connections. And so if we've got somebody who card says 5 bedrooms and it's suddenly 8 and 3 more baths, then
Right.
that's a lot of revenue.
Yeah.
And it's what we survive on. So that's second to life safety.
Right.
That's important.
Yep.
I mean, unless we change our system.
Right,
that's-
right,
we
right.
need-
No, I agree.
And just clarification, I just brought up the short-term rental application. It doesn't ask for your room and meals tax number, it just says, are you licensed, and then it's yes or no.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but it asks the question,
Yeah.
just not for the
Okay.
actual number.
Right.
And some people have been honest. They
Yeah,
said,
they give it, they put it down.
no, I'm not, or yes, I am.
One question, when Bruce had his information up there, they asked for a plot plan, and do you have insurance? I mean, the plot plan, we have that on record, or we should have it on record, so, that shouldn't be something maybe that the homeowner has to file, I have to file with an address.
Well, what happens because we don't have building codes, in a lot of the cities, they go to a plan of the house has to be filed with the
Yeah.
city hall or whatever. And so a lot of them download that so that, you not only know that, you know, plan of the floor plan of the
Right,
house
right,
and all this.
I'll
but we don't
guarantee you,
do that.
90% of people in town don't have a plot.
Uh-uh.
Guarantee you.
But also identify parking
It just,
outlets.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
parking is huge, but, so you can make it as in-depth as.
Yeah.
but
We
can-
do ask about number of spaces, correct?
Yeah.
Parking,
Parking.
Well, that's, yeah,
Spaces.
yeah, because even in a home, on a, when you build a home on the site
Number of
plan,
bedrooms in
the
the,
loop of land use
number
plan
of parking
ordinance asks
spaces
for
on property, yeah.
so many cars per bed, you know, and so that they have enough driveway space for even their personal home, you know, so we do have something, you know, but when they're parked on the lawn or somebody else's lawn, you know, that gets problematic.
You know, this whole thing about registering was trying to preserve peace and harmony within all the communities within the town of Lincoln. And it's unfortunate that some people are just not doing that, but for all these remote owners, for us to have good contact info at the time that Lincoln with, so it can be dealt with expeditiously and try to preserve the harmony and peace and harmony within all these different communities is key to keeping kind of happy with short-term rentals.
Right.
You know, look at what's happening in Conway. I mean, there were certain neighborhoods
Right.
that just, they had no control. And then it went before the voters, you know, didn't go well. So we'll just keep working on it.
Yeah, no, that's good. We're good,
Thank you.
okay,
Yes, thank you.
all right.
All right, solid waste management plan discussion, we had this on our agenda on June 7th,
Yeah,
and I believe that there was a response regarding the paving of the,
Yes, and the town of Woodstock is all.
they're in.
they're on
good.
board.
Okay.
They're gonna, so we're back, it's already planned.
They don't have to look for a new site for recycling. Or a new school.
I think, you know, good for them for questioning it and doing their due
that's fine.
diligence and
So
finding
it's
out.
already on
Absolutely.
for
Yeah,
this
good.
fall, Nate's
Good
doing
for
most
them.
of his paving this fall,
Right.
that'll be taken care of. Right.
All right, next is the Board of Selectmen's biannual budget review. So we have almost 6 months of financial data here in front of us.
And John reminded me that, you know, this is as of, he's projecting out to June 30th, but obviously there'll be some changes in this.
Sure,
She usually puts this out, say, the first, second week of July,
July,
so June,
right.
so you're a
but she
little ahead of us.
projected.
But I
And
think it's running good.
Most of them are right around 50%.
Yeah, it's, you know, the PD, Chad did share with me their overtime budget is taking a hit because of some,
Lost some officers, yeah.
well, we lost, but also we've got one officer out on family medical leave
Right, right.
and stuff. And then they've had some incidents that have required more department personnel to deal with.
Sure.
Made the paper somehow.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so, but other than that, I think we're in decent shape. And,
There's a couple, like, you know, cemetery, they don't do most of this stuff till summer months anyway,
Right,
so
right,
it's,
right.
that's.
So
you
there's a big
imagine
rush
the
there.
homework, Sure,
We've had some unforeseen issues at the water plant. We had an electrical malfunction up there
Saw
that
that.
literally took out and but most of that's come out of CI, covered under CIP.
Mhm.
They just lost pumps. We had a well pump.
What about which on the water tank group 3, there was nothing budgeted, but it was expended $21,000.
That's out of the study that we had to put it out of, that should be out of the engineering. The water study for the 3 tank. I think I was covering that on, where's that on underwater?
It's under capital appropriations.
Yeah, so we had to cover that whole study. So I basically took it out of the CIP water tap fees. And to cover those studies to get the water, water system improvements.
So with the grant application.
That too, that's
Part of it.
part of it, yes,
I didn't do that.
yes, that's right.
town hall building, have we put in that, AC in it yet?
We did, we put that, one is in, scheduled for another one, but we just got a report back. I haven't read through it yet, it came in last Friday, then the co-op and stuff did the energy study here, and there's recommendations on holding up on replacing any more condenser units because the freons don't match. They're so old. And so the town's got to decide what they really want to do with this, because they're recommending cutting the units in half, going to more efficient units, yada, yada, yada.
Sure,
So,
okay,
yep, yep. So,
so we'll just wait for
Yep.
that.
Overlay is abatements that we've approved for taxpayers.
We don't budget anything.
but we try to keep.
It's not in the operating budget. When we set the tax rate, we put a certain amount of money aside for overlay. And we have to look at that each year. And
For unexpected abatements.
Abatements.
Yeah,
People
Right.
petition.
It's a guess game.
so right, it's really not an expense. It's just a reduction in revenue.
What came in the year
So
before.
we don't, so the budget committee doesn't,
Right,
approve or disapprove of it. It's just an estimate that we make.
right,
And that's one thing we're gonna have to look at this fall, because we're gonna be in a rebound.
right,
Yeah,
And if
trying
people,
to get a sense of it.
yeah, and
You know,
history,
there
Yeah.
tends to be an uptick in that in rebound years, because
Yeah.
a lot of assumptions are made and people come in and,
especially this year where they're not touring anything due to COVID. They're doing most of it by phone.
you know.
Yeah.
But that's what overlay is.
Right.
That's fine.
Country taxes, yeah, we get it.
County. We don't pay that much. Oh, we pay plenty of country tax. but it's not-
We all-
But not
Yeah. Yeah, so overall, I'm pretty happy with the budget.
Yeah,
It's
I-
good.
yeah.
All right. Then let's move on to town manager's report.
Okay, I've got, as you see, I've got a list of things that, this is more just update items on
Sure.
stuff that's gone on. West Street project, what is a go? Well, they'll actually be starting up on July 15th. They, by agreement, they're starting after the 4th of July. I think so.
Good call.
They started mobilizing already. At the request of the building committee, the recent committee that's looking at the police fire complex, I sent a letter to DOT District 1 regarding the possibility of creating an emergency access point from the old airport property onto 93 northbound with a gate that would be controlled by police and fire, so that if we did have a station there, they could access 93 north. They could cover north, and then there's a crossover just north of the
Yeah.
property, and then shoot south without going through town. And so, so that letter went out. I haven't heard an immediate
Yeah,
uproar,
we won't
so
hear it
we
immediately,
won't
but
for a
yeah,
while, but
yeah.
I did send that letter.
Good.
If that was approved, who would pay for it?
We'd have
We
to
would
pay.
have to, yeah.
We would have to pay for it as part of the, yeah. I mean, we could do the politic thing and see if we could get some DOT monies, but I guess it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Okay, as, in case you hadn't seen the town seal, welcome to Lincoln sign, Lincoln Woods was stolen. That seal is a wood sign, somebody popped it off and stole it. So the cost to replace it is $550, so
Do we have insurance for that?
$1,000 deductible.
Oh,
So-
geez.
The PD has done a criminal, we reported it, but, so under our building maintenance, I've given the green light to the sign company to create a new one and maybe come up with a more rugged way, at least if somebody tries to pry it off, they'll totally ruin it.
Mhm.
So they didn't, but apparently it was glued and they just popped it off. Very nice. But anyway, I want to let you know that. Community center pole parking lot. So update as of today is Tom Saban, Saban Electric is electrician has taken over the project. the big holdup there was that building was outfitted with three-phase power, which is, I don't know why, but it was. That created a huge problem for the electrician, not so much the co-op, but.
Wasn't
and-
that already be run though?
No, it's in the room, and so the prior electrician wanted to change that whole service down to a simple 220, 110 service, but to change that three-phase over in the building, 10 to 12,000 bucks. And so when I heard that, I said, no. So
The
Tom
lines that we
Saban,
run,
Tom Saban agrees.
but the lines that were run last summer underground.
That's just the pipe. We never pulled any wire.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay.
but the holdup, the co-op does not want to get transformers out until the
Right.
town decides. So the
Right,
decision
okay.
was made as of today.
Keep it as it is.
12 out, it's gonna be three-phase power
Yep,
in that building forever. Tommy Saban says,
fine,
fine, why not?
right?
And so hopefully that project's gonna now move forward.
Good.
Tom is gonna handle it. And the co-op's ready to get rid of that pole and move the transformers out to the street. Finally get that done. So
What about the east entrance there? That
that will
entrance
be burned. You're talking about east, is the one that's got,
that's blocked off,
that'll
yeah.
be burned and grass.
At the same time, do all,
Yeah,
okay,
so-
perfect, okay, cool.
So wait a minute, the conduit runs from where the pole is
The
into the
new
building?
pole, no, the new pole out
Out
on
from
the
the
street.
street
We put
to the
new,
building,
new in, so it's all ready
So
for
the
the,
transformer's gonna be moved out to the new pole.
correct,
in
And
the building.
three-phase power will run underground and into the building.
correct.
And then all that in the parking lot will go away.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's gonna cost,
Just Tommy Saban's time. He has to physically pull it. The co-op will get the pole to the power to the meter, and then Tom
remove
just
the
has to
pole.
make sure it's, so it'll be a cost there. But that's
Just
a-
our
Tom,
electrician to hook up
Yeah.
our,
okay,
Tara sent an update, she went to the solar power at the Kank. She's working with PAREI, it's a nonprofit group out of Plymouth on this project, and their electrician, Larry Mulchy, discovered wires in the inside of the Kank building that should be in a conduit, but are not. He's a licensed electrician, and he said he can't turn his back on it. So that's gonna be, it also had mice living in the big panel, electrical panel, using wires for the heat. So they're correcting all that, sealing up where it's supposed to be sealed. And so that'll be taken care of very shortly. And again, we'll do that out of maintenance.
any idea on the cost of that? We talking hundreds, we talking thousands?
I didn't get a price, but he said Tara showed me that she has the money in her budget. So,
Okay,
well, I'll get the exact numbers. for
there's been
you.
nice issues there in the past too. Are we gonna go, should we go with or recommend to Tara to go with a yearly or annual pest control?
I mentioned that to her briefly. We haven't had a follow-up conversation,
Right.
but I think might be a good
Yeah.
idea. But this was not
Thrown
installed properly,
Sure,
and those where the mice get in, that should never happen. It should have been sealed. And this electrician saying this is totally bogus. And
yeah.
so
I
he
wish
said,
I had
I have to take care of this because I'm the last one to touch it, so.
Well,
Yep.
there's still, mice are an issue there, just saying.
Yeah. Oh,
Pay
yeah.
a nickel for every one shot that's thrown away with something in it.
Community center stove, apparently the Rotary has agreed to replace the stove at the community center for up to $5,000. Tara is working with Pete's Restaurant Equipment in Conway to purchase a stove and White Mountain Oil and Propane to come and connect the new appliance once it's ready for pickup. Waiting for the Rotary check to arrive. So apparently
That's
she can
good
do it
news.
within the 5,000.
The stove
That's
that's there, how many, it was original to the parish center. I mean,
It's old.
that's how old it is.
Yeah.
It's been retrofitted and fixed too many times. Yeah,
Ray Corver is writing the letter that Tara needs to send to the LWCF grant folks for a 2-year extension.
I'm good,
He's expecting to get that to her maybe this week.
momentarily,
Yeah,
perfect.
maybe this week. Planning board meeting Wednesday at 2:30, the 23rd at 6, just to remind a few guys.
I have school board, but I'm hoping to jump on as soon
Okay,
as that's
so
over.
we posted it as, Jane posted it as a board meeting for those who want to
Fantastic.
discuss. There is a letter in there from Chris Bolt, but you'll see the attorney value. Okay, asked me to share that with you. This Lawrence and Dorian Jasinski have asked her to expand vertically. Apparently, it is a non-conforming use, so Carol was moving in the ZBA direction. Attorney Bolt picked up on the fact that it's in Article 3C.3 that the Board of Selectmen are the ones that or their designee make the decision on whether or not it's
Who
required.
made the original decision?
What do you mean?
There's an existing garage that encroaches on the setback.
Is it?
Who, they want to go above it.
Right.
Who made the decision to allow them to approach on
It's been
the
there for a
setback
while,
the first
right.
time? Oh, it was been
It's
the
a
prior.
pre-existing.
Pre-existing, okay, thank you.
Non-conforming,
Gotcha.
but the
Wait,
ZBA in our,
On Black Mountain Road.
Pass loan.
It's the last house on the right where it narrows to the one way. The last house on the right. It's the
That's
one on
probably
the
been
other
there
side of
in
radio.
the-
Oh, okay, so that's not
Late
any
70s,
redevelopment then?
No.
Okay, okay,
No.
okay.
so interestingly, Attorney Bolt, in Peter's opinion, raises a very interesting question. That it does not, our ordinance does not offer a ZBA as a requirement that type of thing comes to the board,
There's no
selectmen,
requirements for this.
or your designee, which would be us. And we make that decision. So the question, and Peter Malley, I talked to him today, said he believes that this would probably be something the Board of Selectmen should deal with.
Oh, really?
In his opinion. Not the ZBA, simply because of the writing. When you read,
cites the statute.
right, he cites it and he cites our,
Yeah.
so he said tonight,
Well,
He was-
that's not a statute, that's the town ordinance.
Town
The
ordinance, yeah.
statute, the state statute would typically designate, it says, yeah, under the normal statutory criteria for a variance is the ZBA statewide. Our land use plan ordinance, the local one, is what says it's the select.
yeah, it's our.
So we're kind of against the norm with that. I was surprised to read that. I mean,
Yeah, me too.
So Attorney Bolts, as you'll see here, is suggesting the Blueberry requires the plan to go to the selectmen for this approval, expand based on these two state criteria rather than the ZBA under the normal statutory.
However, the
variance.
provisions that he suggests that are RSA 43.1, it doesn't.
Hearings by
Yeah.
selectmen, that's what he,
Yeah, but on petition to the selectmen for the laying out or altering of highways or for laying out lands for any public use, and generally for the purpose of deciding any question affecting the conflicting rights or claims of different persons. Their proceedings should be governed by the following rules. I don't know if that would apply. to
Peter
this.
says he thinks it does, but
and what
again,
are the following rules?
There aren't any.
you know,
It ends.
it's big, but, so this is going,
Exactly.
so they're
Exactly.
expanding, if you visualize it, they're expanding within the existing footprint up into a space they're creating, you know what they're creating. But anyway, so what Attorney Bolt's saying is it's an easier process to come to the Board of Selectmen because ZBA requires one notices,
Right.
all of that. Peter said that I was to tell you tonight that in his review, he thinks that in this particular case, it would be one of the board should consider hearing. You'd still have to hear from him, because we don't know the particular, but, or not, but that's what this letter is asking, so.
All-
You know, I understand that it says in our own ordinance that this comes to the select. Again, I was surprised to find that, but if that's what it says, that's what it says. I would think, though, that just because it's in front of the selectmen, doesn't mean we should not be notifying abutters.
Is he coming in?
I think the storms are hitting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought I heard thunder.
no, we're gonna get a wicked storm.
Well, maybe it can happen after I get home from the
I'll call
meeting,
you.
all of us.
Call Paul and tell him, try to get back on with, the storms are messing with us, I think.
Oh, here it comes.
You're coming in? Hi, Paul.
You muted.
You're muted, Paul.
Did we take a break?
Yeah, we,
I lost-
yeah, we're getting clobbered by the storm, I think, so we kept dropping out. So they stopped until you got back on, so.
I think west of us is the internet, but our internet's dropped out twice.
So
Is it raining there? I don't even know if it's raining here.
Yeah, but it's getting pretty dark, but they're waiting
Yeah.
to be back, so.
All right.
Sorry about that. It was the internet that dropped us out.
Oh, we're back, good.
All right, so you guys can.
Yeah, don't trip.
Just so you know, I didn't pause this recording. It's still going.
That's fine, that's fine. Yeah, no, I just didn't want to keep going when it dropped out, because I knew that we shouldn't. Which said going without it, we're still recording.
All right, as I started to say before we lost into that, I'll call the meeting back to order, but, you know, I think just because it's in the selectmen's realm rather than the ZBA, that we should still do a butter notices.
Sure.
I think we should follow the rules and procedures that the ZBA does for the most part.
For that process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of notifying the abutters.
And then I think the
Um,
ordinance should be corrected, or, yeah,
I think the planning board should be made aware of this, and if they want to keep it the same, fine. If they want to change it, fine, but this is their thing.
sure.
I don't want to come out and say they should change it.
Okay, and you'll make them aware and then.
They should be
yeah,
aware of it,
okay.
and if they like it the way it is. then
And you'll
they
bring
like it.
that at your next
Yeah,
meeting or
Wednesday
whenever,
night.
yeah.
Now, the other question I have is the ZBA in looking at this would have, there's 5 criteria that they look at. I can't name them all, but I just know that there's 5 different things they have to check off. Our own ordinance gives 2. That the expansion reflects the nature and purpose of the existing non-conforming use so as not to constitute a different use, which we should look at, but we don't know what that is until they present it. And then the expansion will not have a different or detrimental impact on the neighborhood in which the use is located. Again, we don't know what they're intending to use it for, but we can make that decision. But I think that's the part where the neighborhood really should be inviting the abutters to weigh in on that too.
Sure.
So I guess that's my thought on it.
Something I was thinking about procedurally, Paul might have a better idea is if Attorney Bolt's making this argument, I would think the select board could hear it and then decide that it should go to the ZBA. That could be part of the decision, I would think. I mean, I don't know.
If we're gonna do that, I'd rather do that up front, because it does say the selectman or their designee. Now typically, when it says selectman or their designee, you're our designee.
Right.
Right.
Because you act on behalf of. Could our and maybe Peter is the one to ask this question, but could the ZBA be our designee for this one
Yeah, I mean,
case?
I think boards typically.
Can we do that? Ask Peter that? Because if he thinks that designee here is really referring to, you know, staff, in that it really is, another board is not a designee, then I'll take his advice.
Okay.
But if he thinks that's a great idea, maybe, I don't know if it's fair to hear something and then not give a decision other than that this decision is, we don't know, and go.
Yeah,
No, that wouldn't,
pass it
that
on.
wouldn't be fair. That's
Yeah,
not-
yeah, then they'd have to
No.
come
No,
again.
if a ZBA is gonna hear it, I would think the board would just say, this is
Right.
clearly a ZBA issue and that it's conflicting, and so we really gotta take a look at the conflict in our town ordinance versus state statute and see which prevails, and I haven't heard that from either attorney. Because Bolt's arguing for his client, so. he's-
Sure.
he's
Doesn't it
gonna
say,
do
I mean, Article 3 there, Section C3, which is our loophole, right? It says,
Yep, that's, yep.
except upon a finding by the Board of Selectmen or the designee. So it specifically gives us the right to
Correct.
constitute the hearing and have,
Right.
make a decision.
Yeah,
Period.
Right.
and I think that's where both Peter Malia and Bolt are saying, yep.
It's
You
in-
know, you
it's
can-
in
And
our
Peter
court.
cites the state statute afterwards, which Tammy
Yeah,
quoted. It
right,
doesn't
right.
say a hell of a lot.
Right.
No, it doesn't. It just ends.
And I guess you, to that end, then you could, as a board, say, well, I want to make sure all the property owners know that we're having this little hearing, or property abutters.
But
The only the difference there is at a ZBA meeting or planning board, that the applicant would be paid for the abutters notices. In this case, I think the town would have to. However, I don't think that's a prohibitive cost. I think it,
I don't know, I mean, it's over,
Right.
in
it's an
Black Mountain Road,
association.
it's an association, so
There's
you got quite a few
67
owners.
67 homeowners in this,
Yeah.
in the association.
But we only have to notice the association, and then they
President,
can
that's
notice.
they notify everyone
Yeah,
else,
that's,
right? And I don't
yeah.
know if all the abutters are only, I think there might be something on the other
Physically,
side.
there's only, believe me, there's two of us.
Sure.
Ray Monte's on one side, and there's vacant land on the other. Across the street is Ron Fiskus. That's
Gotcha.
the only
Yeah.
direct impact.
And are those all part of the association?
Yeah,
So we don't have to notify one,
With no,
so
by one.
that's easy.
there's the
Okay,
homeowners.
okay, that's easy.
That's Michael,
If that's what you decided you were
Michael
gonna hear it,
Satow,
we would formally,
Ivan Satow's kid.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, if you decide you're gonna hear this,
he's my sister's
we
neighbor
would
now.
certify mail
I was-
to the
I'll
one
To the
association
abutters.
and, yeah.
All right, Paul, you wanted to say something?
No, I've been listening to what you're saying, and I think you're on the right track, so the only thing I would suggest is that you follow what the ZBA does somewhat in regards to abutter notifications and things like that, so that the abutters are notified. I don't know if there's any history anywhere in the archives about why this was done. I know it was done for a reason. I cannot recall why it was done. Maybe somewhere back in the archives or something as to a reason why this was done, just so you know, but I don't have any clue. OJ, you've been there a long time. Do you have any idea?
No, but I mean, I haven't been on the planning board until I became a selectman. I was never involved in the planning board unless I was applying for something prior to 2012 or 2013.
See, I was on a planning board for a long time, and even a chair, and I can't recall why we did this, but it is part of the ordinance, so.
You know, so, and Peter Malia was surprised. But he said after reading it, he said, well, it looks like it's pretty clear, so Attorney
Yeah.
Bolt off for his clients and said, no, you gotta go to the selectmen.
All right,
We
well,
just went through one where I thought it was a expansion of non-conforming use, and Peter was, that's a real gray area. I mean, and the town's struggling with it. Even Peter and Carol are trying to apply it to certain uses now. So maybe we need to look at that and see if it should be straightened out.
Yeah,
all right, well, I'll make the planning board aware of this ordinance and let them decide what they want.
so what action do you want?
They do. As far as right now, I think we should get Chris Bolt to propose a date
Okay,
of a
Set up a
scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting, and once we get that date, we send out abutter notices and let him know up ahead that we're gonna notify abutters. And I
do you
think
want
that-
me to make a run at having this client pay for the abutter notice?
No,
Oh, I mean,
it's
there's
one
one
notice, let's
notice.
just do it.
There's only gonna be one.
Right.
Well,
Well, no.
No.
The immediate abutters
Oh, you mean it?
should be,
Three.
well, I haven't seen a map, but
I know the map.
Okay, Carol's got that down with
across
science,
the
trust me.
street and either side and next door,
Ron Fiskus is there, there's vacant land, Ray
It's still-
DeMonte's next to him.
the
There's
vacant land?
The landowner.
The
yeah,
landowner.
The landowner. yeah.
so even if it's 6 or
Maybe a
8,
half a dozen.
okay,
Carol's got this down with science, so.
let her do it
Tell us,
and
yeah.
just get it out.
Okay,
Once we get a date,
Yep.
get it out.
all right.
I also think that we should notify the ZBA. Should that
Officially,
just
I
officially
think you
say?
should. Just that you've made a decision to take it.
You got the president. there,
Well,
tell
it should
him.
be in writing. It should be, we'll notify him. We'll notify him
Yeah.
officially with everybody else.
Yeah,
I would just notify them officially.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
you've
I mean,
decided
that
to
can be
take it.
done email too, as far as the ZBA goes.
Yeah.
ZBA, yeah, they don't need a certified
No.
letter,
No.
just send it out to them.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Date, okay.
You have
All
a
right.
member of the ZBA sitting beside you too.
Oh, good. So that one's.
You don't have to send me an email.
So the next thing I have on mine is the Kirby McBride email.
all right.
Okay, that's obviously in the time he sent the email, he didn't know to the extent that we had actually taken legal action. I guess we can publicly.
I'd like to address, read the
Yeah.
letter and then address it publicly.
Okay,
Um,
I didn't think you had a,
No, been recognized.
oh, I did.
Yeah. All right,
That was the last thing we just talked about.
oh, okay. All right, this letter is from Kirby McBride, who is a property owner up in the South Peak, the subdivision. And it's addressed to Butch. I trust you are well. It's been over 6 months since our land use plan application was submitted, and we still do not have a resolution on this water issue. I have been in close contact with David Yeager, who has been trying to work out an equitable resolution, but in recent communications, he stated that we still have not found one. I believe you have all of the information about the property. It is a lot, part of South Peak Resort Phase 1, and I purchased it from an individual, not the developer, who had planned to build on it. But with her husband dying, she decided to sell it. I purchased it with the confirmation that the lot would qualify for a land use plan permit, and now I'm an owner of an unbuildable lot which I cannot develop or sell. I understand there are bigger issues at play with the developer, et cetera, which I have no details on, but feel that I am somehow caught up in that issue with no real understanding of why. What I ask is your assistance to expedite a resolution in this manner in any way you can so that we can move forward with our project. I would be happy to schedule and attend a meeting with the key stakeholders if you think this would be valuable to gain a consensus on the best way forward. Also, feel free to call me anytime to discuss. Thanks, Kirby McBride. First of all, I want to just say that we got this letter almost a week ago. The board can't discuss or make any decisions on anything without being at a public meeting. Even if we go into non-public, we have to call the non-public meeting at a public meeting and vote to go into non-public. So we could not have discussed this or responded to it in any way. There's no single board member here who can respond to a issue like this and speak for the board. So this is our first meeting since getting it, and we're discussing it. With that being said, this house is in the area that was designated as the high pressure zone up at South Peak Resort to be serviced by the booster pump station until such point as the new water tank has been built. So the new water tank has not been built. It's in that high pressure zone. The town is not able to provide water service to that lot. You know, the fact that the high pressure zone is not being serviced fully by the booster pump station is a point of litigation, and the town's position is that it was not built the way it was designed and approved. And we cannot physically provide water to that lot.
Right, and
It wasn't
Mr.
designed to be.
Yeah, and Mr. McBride's property, by his own plans, his basement elevation is at 1,000,
It's over, a little over 1,000.
little over 1,000 feet. The gravity system at best, at the highest point in any structure over there, will only supply to 950 feet. So 950 feet and above, there is no gravity water to get to his property. So he's been told that until such time as
Right.
the tank is, we can't issue a loophole. He's been very cooperative. He understands. He thought maybe he could be a mediator, but with all of the legal, and I told him, I said, I can't discuss in detail, but there's litigation all over the place. And then the most recent litigation isn't out there yet, but, so I told him I would bring it to the board so you could
Yep.
publicly discuss it for the first time. And I'm sure he's gonna sign on, and if he isn't listening tonight, but
No.
I'm sure he'll listen.
Right,
So-
and as far as the meeting with the key stakeholders, we have been open to having a meeting with the key stakeholders, and we've even presented them with some, what I think are
Generous.
very generous, cooperative solutions to this whole issue that would benefit the whole subdivision and the town at a significant savings for whoever is responsible over there, whether it's,
It would benefit Mr. McBride.
and it would benefit Ms. McBride and everybody there.
I feel
And
bad.
those generous offers have been met with just an obstinate refusal. So if he can bring stakeholders together, we'll participate, but
Yes.
so far that has been just not happening. So Paul, did you want to say something on this?
Yeah, I did, just quickly. Has the town looked into, or is there any chance that some of these homeowners could drill their own well? And because they're not able to connect to the town water, they could connect to sewer, obviously, but is there any reason why that could not be an offer made to them in the interim?
I can answer some of that.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh, do you want to?
Well, the brief that we just got today that was filed, the whole thing, a lot of that went over that. Maybe we shouldn't discuss it.
well, I simply say, Paul, oops. Paul
Was it-
Levens.
It was a New Hampshire DES decision not to put wells, but to
Yeah.
put the booster pump station.
Right.
Until such time as the tank was installed.
Okay.
And that's part of the, that's not,
And we'll
that's
leave it at
public
that.
knowledge. That's what I was gonna say.
We'll leave it at that.
Paul
Paul
jumped off. I
disappeared.
guess.
I hope he's okay. Oh, there he is.
Paul, did you hear that?
I'm back.
Okay.
Did you hear that?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I'm cooking dinner for my wife.
So originally South Peak had looked at that option, Paul, and New Hampshire DES thought, and it's in a letter, that they preferred having the booster pump station due to the size of the lots and the building envelopes there, that the booster pump station would service them better until such time as the tank was installed.
So they shot down, DES shot down the well idea
And
way back. 2007.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was way back. I'm surprised at that because I just, I find it a suitable alternative considering the mechanics of wells and stuff. They're able to do a lot, with well pumps these days, and it's right close to the river. I would think that it would be a suitable alternative. But like I said, if it's all already been thought of and looked at, then I'm okay. I don't want to muddy the waters. I just thought that it might be a suitable alternative to get some of these people building if they wanted and in the interim.
Okay, I was gonna ask you, I don't know.
It's filed and
Has it been filed?
it's
Oh, but they
filed.
haven't been
But
served.
this,
They
but
haven't been
this,
served.
they haven't
Yeah,
been
no, we have to
served.
wait for that,
Yes,
yeah.
I haven't heard
Okay.
that they've been served, but
yeah,
I would say no secret,
well, we'll just
We'll-
wait.
Let's
Yeah,
wait till,
let's just wait.
okay.
we
Yeah.
will hope to have an announcement
Soon,
to
at our
make
next meeting, maybe?
at our next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regarding
everything.
The status
The
of
status of
litigation
this-
over there.
Right, self-keep litigation.
Okay.
But we'll wait for now.
Yeah, it's imminent, but it's
Yeah.
not fair at this point to make any announcement.
Okay, ladies.
But
that's
what I
what's
will do is, I will invite Mr. McBride, if he can pull stakeholders together.
Yeah,
We would not stand in the
Absolutely.
way. Okay, so
Yeah.
that,
Yes.
okay, ladies bathtub. Friday, I had I had a meeting requested of me from Cindy Lloyd and two members of their board of directors. I have it here, one of the board of directors couldn't make it, but Cindy and a gentleman by the name of Brian Shaughnessy, attorney Brian Shaughnessy, did meet with me, and they have a bunch of requests and demands that some of it's stuff we've heard before.
Is this legal,
Some is, and I will stop short and I won't discuss some more in
we'll go into
non-public.
non-public, okay.
Okay, but the main thrust is they want to, they would like to manage ladies bathtub, but not own it. And that the town would let them control who comes and goes there. They want to see a sticker system for town of Lincoln and Woodstock residents only. They can park there. I just listened. They want some sort of assistance with security for their land as well as because of the problems they're having. And so these are some of the things that come up.
Is
that
this
came
an or
up.
else? Was this an or
What's
else
this? What's that?
request?
Who?
Was this an or else request?
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So in the conversation, Mr. Shaughnessy in particular, Attorney Shaughnessy in particular, asked me of, how did we acquire the property? I said, we took it for tax deed. He said, well, you realize that was a nonprofit, you had no authority to do that. I said, well, I think we did. So and I said, well, obviously this conversation is gonna stop, and then I'll fill you in what we went on, what's transpired since then.
Okay.
Since that comment. They also question our right to access, even though we own the property in all, there is, in their opinion, no deeded access to it.
It's illegal to landlock property in the state of New Hampshire.
I'm just telling you what they said. So the documents,
I know
they're
that for
saying,
a fact.
so they're saying that we have no deeded access. I haven't done
Whether
any
you have
research.
deeded access or not.
But I did talk with Peter Malley briefly, and I'd like to talk to you in non-public about that, the conversation we had.
Well, the answer to that is if we don't have deeded access, we go to the courts and they will give us deeded access because you cannot landlock
there's-
property in the state of New Hampshire.
So there was a
Fact.
process. So the main thing is they are looking for better towns enforcement of who goes there and what activities they can do while they're there. They would like to see permanently assigned people to the swimming hole to monitor. They suggest the recreation department.
How many lifeguards they want?
No lifeguards. We can't have lifeguards. I already said that. I said the town will not
Believe me,
lifeguard
I'm being
any of
facetious.
the swimming holes for liability, okay?
Of course.
They want more trash pickup. They're willing to help with the enforcement. Attorney Shaughnessy said he's.
Oh, yeah, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut because this is not
He's
good.
looking for a cooperative way to solve this.
Hmm.
And it was those words that made me, I called Peter Malley.
He
So,
wants a cooperative way to limit access to the town swimming hole.
so.
The
So he wants-
town of
they-
Lincoln and Woodstock folks have, and folks who came up on the train to Loon Mountain to ski on wooden skis a million years ago, the logging train to use ladies' bathtub. And now they want us to regulate it, so only a certain amount of people, and they want us to pay for that yeah, I'm gonna
So
stop talking now.
I said, what about the taxpayers? There's taxpayers in this town
who aren't residents. And they said, no, it's for residents. And so, like we
So
give out
most
a
of the
dump,
people that
like
live
we
down
give
there
a dump
can't go.
sticker, we would give a sticker for a resident.
But
got it.
homeowners get dump
In-
stickers
The dump sticks, the
Yeah.
dump sticker goes across the board, doesn't it? Butch?
Okay.
to
Yes.
homeowners
I'll
as
just
well,
question.
right?
It does.
I
It
mean,
does. It
so
didn't
if I
make
live in-
sense. They're trying to control, they're not happy with, and they're afraid now that with Loon shutting off parking lots with the latest restrictions, which are being enforced, by the way, over on
South Peak Road.
South Peak Road, down near the river. People are trying to park there, and they're having a big red sticker put right on the driver's windshield covering up that says no parking, that you have to take off with a scraper.
Yeah.
Okay,
Who's put that on?
That's
the
vandalism.
owners, because they're on
That,
private
ooh,
property.
guess where I'm gonna go swimming tomorrow?
Yeah, because of private property. So it's, the river access is getting ugly. Okay, but
Yeah, no kidding.
so, I said I'd bring it to you folks. This obviously, you know, it's probably a couple of things I want to discuss in non-public that Peter Malley and I talked about, and he knows it, that we're gonna have to consider. A meeting with these folks, they want to meet with the board. I said, I've never seen the board not
Okay,
meet with anyone, but again, obviously they want the police. I had Deputy Burnham set in with me, as well as Ron, came in late, but to hear, and he told them that there's things they can enforce, there's things they can't. Not can't, they won't, because it's civil, in other words, towing.
sure.
So they say they're gonna be, they've already arranged with Arnold's, and there's gonna be a tow fest, according to them, out of, the deputy quickly said, just understand, we can't tow from private property unless, you know, posted or an altercation takes place. You know, it has to be a violation of law. So the stickers, which Cindy has talked about a lot, which, you know, I'm sure she's listening, or will listen to this, is something that she wants, and she agrees, they both agreed that it was a Lincoln Woodstock resident should, not taxpayer, resident, should have access, and they thought stickering cars was the way to do that. I think that's fraught with issues, but that's Butch thinking, you know. So anyway, I just bring it up tonight to get direction from you guys on where you want to go with this, but there was a formal meeting, so.
Testing the temperature.
No, that's my answer. I do not want second homeowners preventing folks from going to town-owned swimming holes. That's why we own them. That was the reason for doing it. That was the purpose of negotiating the old hole. Is so that people couldn't kick other people out of historic swimming holes. So, no.
I'd suggest we go into executive session. Let's hear what the attorney had to say.
Yeah, there's a couple of legal points. that-
And just to clarify, they have not spoken to Arnold's about towing anything from
Okay,
Lakes
well,
Bathtub.
that's straight from Ron.
Then that was a lie.
Okay, so.
You know, I understand your point of view, but I also understand living in that, you know, residential, nice condominium association gets faced with challenges that no other association has to because of that swimming hole. Wait a minute, let me finish. We have X number of parking spaces.
Right.
And when you say they're trying to kick people out, I think people have the right to use that lady's bathtub. Okay, it's the parking spaces that are the real problem, because
Part of what you just said, though, they want to regulate who goes, when they
no,
go,
they want
and
to
what
say
they
they
do
want
there.
just the parking spaces to be used by town residents,
Yes,
okay? Which is what is it there, 15?
15, we
Okay,
have them marked
15.
now, they were happy. I actually had the guys go up and they're marked.
So
They're
there's
lined.
Perfect.
15 people can park,
Mhm.
okay? Now, if people park legally elsewhere, and get there.
Yeah.
They can use ladies' bathtub.
Yeah.
They just can't
Right.
park there. So we're not talking about kicking people out. We're talking about limiting who can park in the 15 spaces. And I think we have to distinguish between those two.
But that's
And-
not what Butch just said.
Well, it is, and OJ
I think we
clarifies.
have to
Right.
listen to those taxpayers, homeowners, and some residents
Mhm.
and work out something that's a benefit to all of us. You know, I don't know if we just limit it to residents. I know other towns do that.
It has been challenged, but not some success and some not such success, I know there was Sunapee had a big suit, but that was more for a state access to a lake.
Who's gonna enforce this?
That's
if-
what I wanna know,
Yeah.
because that's the point, it can't
So
be
say
the
we
people.
limit it to only Lincoln residents, period, end
With
of story,
stickers,
nothing
with
else.
stickers, then.
With stickers or
15.
whatever.
Cars have to
15.
And
stick.
15 cars and
Right.
somebody stands at the stairs and looks at everybody's ID, and if you don't live in Lincoln, you can't go down the stairs.
No, they can all go down the stairs.
I'm just
They
saying.
just can't park their car there.
And so only somebody that has a Lincoln license can
Lincoln
park there.
Woodstock,
Can
That's
get a
it.
sticker. to
that's
park
what
there.
they want, that's right.
To get a sticker
That's what they
to park there.
So it's first come, first served, 15 spots. We already don't, and the signage, apparently the signs got taken down. We had no parking on the inside, and that was from Ron's request just for emergency vehicle
Sure,
access.
sure.
So, and then outside of that is their road, and they've got that sign. And we, the PD quickly said, we can't enforce, you have all the authority in the world to enforce your property.
Private
So that they were saying, so anybody that's in there, that's a Lincoln and Woodstock resident, then the town, what we have sent PD up, if we see a Rhode Island car parked there, no sticker, down on the beach, who owns a Rhode Island car? Are you a full-time resident here? I mean, so that's what they want. They want the folks moving that way. And so it does create an enforcement issue. The deputy said, well, in that situation, PD would have the authority because it's part of a town ordinance. And you'd have to, but beyond that, okay, other than, illegal acts like drug abuse or indecent acts or, all that stuff. But just simply, they wanted us to sign that no overnight camping.
No
That's easy.
bonfires.
No
No open
campfires,
fires, yeah.
no open fires, no tents. Okay, in other words, so I asked the question, well, are you talking about someone's got 2 or 3 little ones and they put an umbrella tent up to keep this? No, we're talking about tents and overnight sleeping and stuff like that. And so they didn't think our signage was adequate enough. People don't, I said to them, I said, we can write 5 placards full of, people don't read it. I mean, it's been proven. Exit and people still go in the exit or out the exit, so, but I agree, we'll take a look at signage and if they have a suggestion, we can improve that. But the big thing was on the enforcement, and then it morphed into, well, we think that, as a partnership, if the town turned management of the ladies' bathroom over to us, but you guys would still, I understand was you guys would still own it and be responsible for it, but, and I said, I'm not comfortable with that, and we're getting into an area that I'm not gonna discuss, because Attorney Shaughnessy made a couple of comments that said, all right, this has gone to a different level. And
If you remember last year too, I actually called the police one time driving up 112 into town because they were parked along 112 and they were hopping over the fence. And I think Deputy Chief came down and then they put the yellow caution tape up there. But I almost saw an accident where a little kid almost got
Yeah,
clipped.
and the
coming out of
state
the
backs
back
us
seat.
up on that.
Oh,
The state,
absolutely.
because in the state right away, and they said
There's
absolutely.
now
so-
no parking signs there
Yeah.
permanently.
Yeah.
Right.
So we dealt with that, but, people are and they still, some of the folks at Riverfront, and I know it's a pain, they have X amount of spots. And what Riverfront has gone to is a placard system. So every owner will get a placard for their vehicle or vehicles.
And their own security then will be looking, and if it doesn't, they'll ticket and tow. Supposedly, Hams has agreed to that, but the boss just
They
said
have
it's not. Yeah. So.
We just
um,
can't,
I
you
know,
can't, I know, but the towing part of it is, if you park in my driveway, I can't just call and say, hey, towing company, come tow this car. I have to call the police department, and the police department has to authorize the towing of that car.
So they
We
will
just
do
can't
it,
go steal cars from
but it
people's
has to be
properties.
initiated by an owner. It can't be initiated by the police department. They will
Correct,
come and
that is
verify.
correct,
That's, so it has to be.
that is correct.
And so they're prepared to do that, I guess. And,
Oh, well, I mean, they have to, the PD has to, and then they keep a log, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of it. but-
so,
I'd like to throw another thing out. A couple of years ago, we settled a major lawsuit, and as part of that, we gained a parking area, a path, and the rights to a section of the levee
Mhm.
to use. We have had no plans or money to do anything with the
Construct it.
parking lot or construct the trail down there. Maybe this is the time to do that. You know, the area for the parking is pretty level. I assume someone could go out there with a
we'd have to get
excavator and
DOT, we'd have to get DOT authority to, because we'd be creating it in there off the travel, well off the travel way, but in their right of way. But that was the plan going forward. So, and then the path town crew could cut and shape to walk down in. But
is that something the town crew could do? Do we need a bigger excavator than,
if we did, it's still, if we could do it in-house, we wouldn't have to contract it out,
Really?
even though, no, we're running an excavator to, which is, was to come up with, burying the water line over at the snowmaking line over to the Kank, and we've run an excavator and our crew's doing that, so we do the same thing there, and they might do it with the current backhoe. I mean, it's flat, but that, I don't think that's the issue, is whether they have time this year or not. We've given them quite a plate with Black Mountain Road, and we're probably gonna have to struggle through this season and make a plan. My suggestion is you make a plan for next year, we set monies aside, but I think that we do need to probably develop that access to take some of the pressure off.
It's a good idea.
I think that would. I mean, if we have a place, if we just made it accessible, I think that would take a huge load off.
I mean, this year.
$20 a car.
Well,
It's.
Everybody else
You could
charges it.
still have a sticker system that.
Buy a sticker,
They could come
$20.
in, town hall, get a day pass sticker or whatever, whatever you want. I mean, there's tons of
I
options.
mean, there's not a whole lot of parking spaces there.
Well, I think the original design, if you remember, Angle Park was like 20. I think it's not
Yeah.
a small,
I think we were pushing for 20, but
it
it's,
was pushing for 20, but
it
depending on
wasn't
the
engineered
limits.
out, but
You
that
can
was
only
the
go
guess.
so close to the
Right,
substation.
that's not on our property.
So
We
we,
can go up to
stay
the edge
back.
of our property there.
and it's from the vault, so it's quite a stretch. Angle Park. And it's well off and obviously wouldn't affect the roadway at all. And in the wintertime, it would be no way parking there because we wouldn't maintain it with, if they want to
Right,
snowshoe
right.
down or do something like that, they could, but yeah.
Well, I just wonder what it would, if the town crew can't do it this year, what the cost of that would be. It doesn't seem like it'd be a lot to have someone go in there with it.
The big thing is to get DOT
Well,
permission.
I don't know. I mean, to initially, there's a
We can do
breakdown lane.
The trail,
Well, you could do the trail.
Yeah.
And there's a breakdown lane there, and I don't know,
I don't know whether, we'd have to determine where the state's, anywhere in their right of way, if we're using their right of way to park.
there's all along Main Street, right?
Right.
Is there anything up there that says, you can park on Main Street here, but
You can
not there?
park, you can park up there.
Well, there's probably enough room for 20 cars just
Yeah,
along the road.
they took that wire rope rail out of there too. Remember they had the wire?
Yeah, like the three wire.
Rope guardrail.
So I think cutting the trail,
Would just let people do their thing.
If you build it, they will come.
I think.
So let me
Where do we
check,
get
what
out?
I'll do is I will check with Nate. He walked out initially, we'll see. he's got equipment to do it and get that, it's 10 foot wide.
Well, let's have a plan. I mean, get somebody.
Well, we got the plan. It's on the, we just got to cut,
Sounds
Trees.
like a document.
Yeah, but have them look at it, yeah.
Yeah.
cut trees and see what it'll cost. And then just tell people there's a path,
Oh, yeah.
there's a public path to the river.
Paul, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I do. First of all, I want to thank Jack for approaching Loon, even though it didn't seem to help very much. But I do believe greatly that part of the problem with Ladies Bathtub is the fact that Loon Mountain's access to the river is closed. I continue to try, and I'm sure you guys all aware. I mean, I've made several contacts between New Hampshire Fish and Game, Forest Service, Maggie Hassan's office, Shaheen's office. So, I mean, I'm not letting this up, but it was kind of comical. Just a little story that my wife and I went to the Gypsy last night, and one of the people who live at those condos was, I had no idea who she even was. And she brought up the fact that the reason that so many people are coming to Ladies Bathtub is because Loon Mountain has closed that access. And my wife couldn't believe it that this lady was telling me that after all I've been trying to do here, but it was just ironic. But I do believe that the access to the Loon Mountain River area has a greater impact on other areas that they do have access to. And I think it just creates more of a problem. And, we have all this development within town, and the town has always tried to keep it open. I mean, even the access to the old swimming hole through the backside, we made sure we had a right of way, and on the town side of the South Mountain Bridge, we tried to make access through there too. But I think we need to really work hard at trying to keep this access open, not just for the local people, as Tammy said, but for everybody. I mean, it truly needs to. It's not that I'm trying to say that anyone's a bad person if they don't allow you access, but I mean, people have had access to that for years. And, we've allowed a lot of building, we've allowed a lot of development in town, and all the time we're doing that, we have kind of sort of said, you're not going to lose some things here. You're going to continue to be able to do some things you always did. And it seems like that's fading away. And I don't know if there's anything the board can do about it, but I think you should think about ways of trying to keep that access open. So, I mean, the solution to pollution is dilution. I mean, the more you can share people out, the less impact you're going to have in one area, and I think the board really should look at that.
Thank you. And I hope we are doing that with the old hole solution. It's just one piece of it.
Just wanted to point out, this is on the GIS mapping.
Yeah.
Right where our parking is, their right away widens, states right. Right up to where the fence is there.
We have a survey,
Right,
plot plan of at least that section
right.
that lays out the parking and the trail to the river. The trail to the river is,
The trail to the river might not be as easy as I.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty
No,
steep.
it's gonna be a challenge. We gotta cut into the side of
And we're
to
probably
make
gonna
a
have to
safe
make
walking
it
path. Yep.
ADA compliant as well.
No, we can't switch back. We
No,
have
It
a,
doesn't,
Oh, just a
doesn't have to
defined
be, it just
straight
has to be posted that it is what it is, like people who haul wheelchair folks to the top, get them up a
Oh,
mountain.
gotcha. Okay,
You just have to notify them ahead of time, like,
Right.
this is what it is. There's swimming down there, but you gotta
Right,
right, I mean,
traverse this to get
it's
there.
a hiking.
The way we
trail.
had it laid out, as you remember, I know, Tammy, if you walked it now, but it's
I
a
did.
gradual
yeah,
slab hillside down.
Right,
and
but it's
right
down
up
there.
against.
gradual along a fairly steep bank.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So there's gonna be a lot of cut and
Cut
fill
and fill.
to make the trail. I mean, if you walk the trail right now, you're walking
Like
like
that.
this.
Exactly.
It's a 10-foot right away, I think we have.
Yeah, not that the trail is not gonna be that wide.
No.
No,
But it was the cut and the fill that we
It's
needed
gonna-
the 10 feet.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
Okay, they would like a meeting, and I don't know if it's, do you wanna
Well,
Schedule
we have to
some time
discuss it in non-public, other things to do with that, so.
Yeah, and let's talk to Nate and see what his thoughts are, bring him up. I don't know if he's ever walked it. Did he?
Yes,
walk
he
it
was
with
there,
us?
he was there that day.
Yeah, he was,
When we
okay.
did the walk, and he was part of the plan that was finally agreed to in court. So it was
Okay.
part of the court settlement.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
the only thing I didn't, had left was, we were able to get the pipe delivered for the snowmaking line. And starting, I think July 7th, right after the holiday, Nate and the crew are gonna, we've secured the welder to weld the pipe, and our guys are gonna dig the trench and drag the new pipe in and get that done, and then they'll be moving to start Black Mountain Road and the reclamation of that and stuff. So because the welder we thought was gonna be into September before we could get him, he was available, so they're just gonna knock it out, get the pipe welded and
Great.
get it in the ground. So
Good.
that's it. So that's all I have for right now. Just a couple of things in non-public, which we've already discussed.
All right, one thing we had is a request from the town clerk regarding waiving interest on a tax bill that was sent out to the wrong address.
Yes, I'm reading through that.
What's that?
I read that.
I was just gonna be more specific.
Then we had another one that had the wrong.
Guess they can't see my hand.
Right, and that one's right
that
here.
one's right. What'd you say?
Correct mailing address right here.
Yeah, John had one.
All right, so the homeowner is requesting that the interest charges be waived on her 2020 lien. It looks like the July 2020 bill was sent to their correct PO box, but the December billing was not.
I'm unsure of how this would have been
Yeah,
reverted as the previous address, blah, blah, blah. It may have been a system error.
yeah. So in other words, they got the July bill, they paid it. They did not get the December bill.
Sent to the wrong.
It was sent to the wrong address, and you're looking to just abate the interest from December until now on that bill. I will make a motion to, I don't know if it's waive or abate. I think it's waive the interest fees for the property of Lisa Gillingham, 28 Loonwood Drive, number 1. For the December 2020 bill due to it being sent to the wrong address.
You specified interest in that, yes? Did you say interest?
We're just,
Okay, I'll second that.
yeah, just interest. Any other discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Can we let Kristen know that we're good with that?
You got,
Yep.
okay.
So
What was the name on that?
Lisa
Gillingham,
Gillingham,
Lisa
Lisa and Tom.
oh, you know them.
Gilling.
Gillingham.
Okay.
Do you want to act on this one,
Yes,
public session?
all right. This is
Why, Rich?
the Y Birch kids. We settled this assessment case, and the amount that we agreed to for 2021 was not corrected, and the bill went out for the higher amount, not the amount that we agreed to. And I mean, this is, we've already agreed to this
Court
amount.
settlement,
We just need to agree to an abatement of $3,273, and I'll make that a motion.
yeah. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I think with that, we will offer an apology that that was
Yeah.
our, I mean,
Yeah.
we settled this, we agreed to it, and it just,
Yeah,
John is not sure. It got missed.
it got
yeah,
missed.
yeah.
So
Well,
it was certainly unintentional, and we thank
we're all
them.
human. Yeah.
All right, and this is, we do this every year and I don't exactly understand it, but we will not be using the PA-28 form, and this is an assessment form for 2022.
Every year.
Right, we've done this before, it's just,
Thank you, sir.
we vote to not use this
Right.
form and report it to the state, and I'll make that as a motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, did you have anything?
I did, one thing, I just want to, Jane Ludwig asked last week at the 2 weeks ago at our meeting, about the sign coming out where the Bennington Post Office is. We did not purchase a
We
sign,
did
it's
not.
still the existing sign that's there, however, there were two. One said wrong way and the other one said exit only.
Yeah.
The wrong way was red, it had faded to nothing.
Mhm.
The exit only sign was fine. So it looks like the landowner, I'm assuming, took down that faded wrong way sign and just left that one existing exit only sign.
You're
So the
correct.
town did not
We
put
did
up a
not.
sign, we
So I
didn't pay for
misspoke.
anything.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's the existing sign that was always there.
And the
They
whole-
just took down the bad one and left the one that was already,
And the property owner said that he's,
and that's
Who's that?
his prerogative,
said he saw no problem, but one of his people did remove that, so.
Okay.
that's fine.
So
I just wanted to
missed-
clarify
yeah,
that, that's
I
all.
misspoke, yep.
Yeah, no, and that's fine, again, we're human.
Still they come out that way, so.
Yes.
Yeah, constantly.
Did you have anything, Jack?
No, sir.
All right, open for public comment. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, has the town received any type of a, what am I forget the word I'm looking for, from the gentleman on LeBrec Street yet? Because the ZBA met and refused him, so that was,
Oh,
he refused.
yes, Coriel's been in.
On LeBrec or
No, on,
Maltese?
Maltese?
I'm sorry, good book, I'm sorry.
Good road, okay, thank you, yeah.
He's been in several times. Probably Ron's got a better update than I, but he's been, the next morning he was in here filling out the paperwork, and he's looking, I know one thing, he's looking to expand up, shorten his garage, go up. He's working through the planning department, and that's as much as I know. But was immediately in here, so
So he's not appealing.
he's not, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So he's not going to appeal, so he'll be removing his,
As far as I know,
front.
it's the way he's proceeding, he's adhering to, he's abiding by the decision.
all right,
He's looking for other stuff. I know he wants to move his hot tub, I don't know where, off,
right.
where it was, someplace else, and what else, Ron?
Building another small garage on the other side of the house.
He's looking about building another small garage on the other side of the house, so he's going through the permit process for all of that stuff.
And I mean, if he's going through that process, that's great. It would be nice to, maybe the town said, once you figure out that if he's going to be removing that and changing that, just let the abutter know what's going on, because they couldn't be here. And maybe if he is going to be doing that, maybe the town could send them a letter and say that, just update him, because I'm not sure they had any way to communicate.
Okay, what we'll do is I'll get an actual update from Lisa and Carol of where they're at, and we'll do that.
Or
Whatever
as
they're
soon
at,
as he
we'll-
does have permits, and I think they
Yeah, he hasn't got
contacted us
permits
via
yet, 'cause
email.
some of the stuff he
Needs plans.
needs plans and
Right.
stuff, so, but he is,
And their contact was via email, if I remember correctly.
It was. That's
So-
Rob and Monica Haley.
There you go, thank you.
Right.
Both former police officers, by the way,
Are
in the
they?
city of New
Yeah,
York.
super
Okay.
nice people,
Yeah,
they're
they are.
great kids.
Yeah.
So-
I just want to communicate with them,
yep,
the town. The only other question I have is, how do I find out how much land the town owns on both sides of the bridge into the parking lot? I know last week, Tammy talked about what's on the tax map isn't right. How do I find out what's right? How do I find out what the town actually owns on each side of that bridge?
that's.
I know we own the bridge to the right and left.
It was all recorded.
It's all recorded. In fact,
We
there was
had
an
to
email,
record it, yeah.
there was an email that came in today,
Yeah, I saw that from
From-
Jay, and I haven't read that yet.
and it's all recorded, Paul, but there was an email that came in, I think, from Loon Mountain today, or their engineers or something, that showed the recorded deed and the transfer of land and all that stuff, and with acreage and.
So does the tax map not jive with that, or does the tax map need to be
Looking online right now, Paul, from my recollections when we went through it, that looks correct.
I
what's
think-
online at the tax map?
Yeah, that looks correct to me. Now, I mean, that was all recorded over in Grafton.
But I don't know if the pickups, because we're in a reval, but they may not have picked it up exactly. I don't know where the pickup.
Because it looks to me on the downhill side and the
Had no
uphill side.
entryway at one time.
No exit.
Hey, Jane, could you mute yourself, Jane? Oh, there we go.
There we
Okay,
go.
sorry, Paul.
No, that's all right. Oh, no. But it looks like from the downriver side and the upriver side of the bridge, the town owns a certain amount of land each side of the bridge, on the upriver and downriver side of that bridge.
Not much, yes, enough to get.
However, the
Access.
agreement, to get that all done, the agreement was that Loon Mountain has permanent access or the permanent right to use the land under the bridge for parking, et cetera.
Correct.
So.
Right, right. I mean, look, I'm just trying to get access to it any way we can, to try and make this thing work.
It looks right, from what I recollect when we went through all that, it looks correct what you see online on the GIS.
Ron, are you looking up the,
I was trying to, you want me to keep looking?
You just, we'll go to the lincolnnh.org and GIS mapping and zoom
no,
in.
no, the,
Yeah, I mean, I can look on a tax map. I had been looking, and it looks like there's a substantial piece on the locomotive side that the town owns.
Okay,
yeah, but who sent it out? I think Carol did.
Carol may have.
He did that, I think, when we were talking about, what was it Loon was just recently in for? She did a whole bunch of research on that. When we were talking about, OJ, we were talking about that parking on the Route 112 side, right?
Yeah,
Here we
and
go.
Carol just sent out something with the recorded maps for.
Carol sent it out
Yes,
at 1:47 today. I haven't even looked at it. I
Right.
just saw that it came in.
and it's the
I didn't
recorded.
get that.
Huh?
Is there a chance I could get a copy of that?
I think it was sent to
Oh, just the
all the
planning board.
boards. It
Because it was a
was
plan.
sent to the planning
Just
board,
plan-
Paul.
Paul, yeah, you
Oh,
should
what?
have got, you should
I
have.
I think my wife just told me I have it. I haven't looked at my computer today, so.
Listen to your wife, Paul.
Always,
Listen to your
always.
wife.
Yeah. I guess I gotta pay attention, huh?
Yeah, there was a letter and a map, and again, it came in this afternoon, and I
Yep.
didn't have time to look at it. I saw that it came in.
All right, thank you. I'll take a look at it. Thank you. I don't want to bother you, keep you going here tonight, so that's enough. Thank you.
All right, and Jane, you want to talk?
Yes, I just wanted to say, I think it's great that Cindy looked into that and is thinking about that, and the board is thinking about that, because I think it's fair to the residents that they have a place to park when they go to use the swimming hole. And I never meant, as far as ladies is concerned, that other people should not be included or able to go down there. That wasn't the point. It was the point that the residents could never get a parking space down there. The other thing about the sign, I wonder why, Butch, you said that it was paid. There was one side that said no entryway, and it was there was a sign that was no entryway before, and they took that down. So Butch, why would you say that the town paid for it if they didn't?
Because I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said that. That's a simple answer.
Okay.
We had talked about
Yeah.
paying for it,
We had
and I made a mistake, so, sorry.
Yeah.
an incorrect assumption. It happens.
All right, then we want to go into non-public. I know we have one personnel issue
Mhm.
and an update on at least two legal
Two
issues. We
legals.
have the CRBI thing, and we had
Some
a,
things on the bathtub, yeah, I just want to bring you up to
Okay.
speed on.
and then if there's any update on the Chenard
Yeah,
case or discussion,
Yes.
that was, so, all right, I'll make a motion to go into non-public to discuss three different legal issues, get updates, and one personnel issue.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Paul.
Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Jane.